minutes. Minutes. 3 minutes.
I think so, yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. From Mercer Lake, West Windsor, New Jersey, we welcome you to the 2016 IRA Regatta. We'd like you now to pause for just a moment. Please stand. Gentlemen, remove your caps as we honor our country with the playing of our national anthem.
...2016 IRA National Championship here in West Windsor, New Jersey at Mercer County Park. The first race of the day is the Men's Varsity 8, heat number 1, starting at 8:30 a.m. The crews have been pulled, and they're off. Lane 1, FIT. Lane 2, Northeastern. Lane 3, Yale. Lane 4, Boston. Lane 5, Navy. And Lane 6, Oklahoma City. It's a pretty amazing scene to picture the amount of power being generated by these athletes, and the speed seems to be coming from the middle of the course, with Yale taking an early 4-seat lead over Lane 2 Northeastern, with Boston University, Navy, and FIT within 2 feet. They're crossing the 250-meter mark now. Crews are beginning to shift down
well
into
underway
their
now at the 250, 300-meter
base
mark.
cadence.
Yale is powered out to almost an 8-seat
And the regatta
lead
is underway.
in the first 250, leaving the rest of the field to scramble. Everyone is even relatively within a seat or two, with the exception of Oklahoma in lane 6. They have fallen a length back. Yale living up to their billing. Really going strong, almost about to break open water here at the 500. At 36 and a half. Even looks a little lower than that. Yeah, 34 and a half for Yale. Open water now, so second place would be Northeastern, that all-important second place, but very closely followed by Navy and Boston University. FIT about a third of a length behind that pack. Oklahoma trails. Well, can't say enough about this Yale crew. They have definitely burst off and earned their number 1 ranking here. They've got a quarter length open at the 750 gone, and just making it look easy. They're back up to 35 and a half. Maybe they're taking a little press here, but it's just like a steady state row for the Bulldogs. Now it looks like some pressure is being applied on the outside by Navy. Navy is putting their bow into contention for that second spot, challenging Northeastern, and Boston University running in a very close fourth. FIT in fifth, about a length down on that grouping, with Oklahoma trailing. Navy put on a nice spurt now to challenge Boston University and Northeastern. Give Navy 3 or 4 seats over Northeastern. They're through the 1,000 now, and Navy is really taken off. Yale steady as she goes. Just so much power, so much rhythm in that boat. But Navy is coming back on Yale, and they are at least a half a length up on Northeastern at this point. Boston University needs to do something right now to challenge Northeastern and Navy. But let's see if Navy can hold on to this advantage going into the last 750. They're through the 750 now. Navy still has a good 2/3 of a length lead on Northeastern. Boston University now taking a press, and they are coming up. FIT and Oklahoma City open water back. So it's really a race for second now. Yale just holding on to their lead that they got quite early in the first 500. And Navy rowing a bit higher, but doing what they have to do to qualify, or I should say, just put a statement down here to come in second in this particular heat here. Navy pushing hard, 500 to go. At 40, Navy at 40 with 500 to go. Boston University challenging to come up. And Boston University now has gotten ahead of Northeastern by about 2 seats. So coming into the last 300 meters, it's Yale defending.
Trying to get a charge going. Naval Academy doing a great job of hanging in here with Yale. Yale has a commanding lead, about 400 meters to go. Academy still holding second place. BU charging, Northeastern charging. We could have a dynamite finish down here in the last 30 strokes. Academy's in second. BU coming up strong, Northeastern in the middle. Yale comfortably ahead. This is 2 to qualify or 2 to advance directly to the AB semis. Now we have it down in front. Here's Yale out in front. Northeastern coming hard on the outside. At the finish line here, Navy on the inside. BU in the middle. It's going to be Yale and it's going to be the Naval Academy. Last few strokes. There's Yale. There's Navy over. Closely followed by Northeastern. And then Boston University in fourth.
Approaching the start, getting ready to be locked on. Nice overcast day with potentially some rain heading our way in the next couple of hours, but cool conditions for these athletes representing their top crews in each of their event. They're going to get a great chance to demonstrate their speed early on. Progression for the 24 crews in the men's varsity 8s. Our top 2 from the heats will go on to the AB semifinal, and the rest of the crews will go on to the repechage. In lane 1, Drexel. Lane 2, Columbia. Lane 3, Cal Berkeley. Lane 4, Cornell. Lane 5, Wisconsin. And lane 6, Santa Clara. We're looking at some of the radar images here of water and precipitation coming our way, and I think we're going to really be pleased that the regatta schedule was adjusted so that we can get the majority of the racing in. Clearly, it's a matter of being pretty strategic in the heats here, as many of these crews, to get their top placing, will be looking at going through not only the heat, the repechage, the semifinal, and then obviously racing the final. So it's a lot of racing within 3 days. And so finding a way to be able to race the full regatta as opposed to just one heat at a time is a tactical choice that these
Radio check, just make sure it's any attendance you can hear this. Yeah, I copy, loud and clear.
We're about 2 minutes to the start.
Copy that. Get out. Thanks, that help us. Appreciate it.
One of the things that we can see from the tower here are the coxswains, bows, and 2 seats, getting the crews aligned, trying to get straight in their lanes as there's a breath of a headwind here. The top seated crew in this event, in this heat rather, is Cal Berkeley. And then on either side, the crews are seated to the lower positions.
Drexel,
Kind of here,
Columbia,
it's giving some final instructions.
California, Cornell,
Crews are being polled.
Wisconsin, Santa Clara. Attention, go.
We got to start. to see the amount of energy to get close to a ton system up to speed. Stroke ratings 45 plus. Cal at 44. Cornell at 42. As we approach the 250 meter mark, Cal and Cornell are level with Columbia 1 seat behind. Wisconsin 1 seat behind Columbia. You can hear the coxswains calling their shift. Stroke rating is coming back down to a more conservative level. Looks like Cornell is staying a slightly higher.
Striding out has a couple of seats on Cornell, and it looks like California's staying up a little higher, a little longer. 38 for Cal, and they're taking a good move here as they go through the 500, and have got about a half a length on Cornell. But Cornell definitely running a strong second now. I would say they're a half to 2/3 of a length up on Columbia. Columbia then about 3 or 4 seats up on Wisconsin. And then it's probably over to Santa Clara, just a bow ball or so ahead of Drexel, maybe a seat or two. Cornell gamely pressing Cal here, only about four seats down, maybe 3 seats down. And Columbia, the Lions, right in the hunt here. Wisconsin trying hard in 4th place to draw back up into that pack. 750 gone. Cal turning over here at about 36 strokes a minute. The Big Red right with them at 37. Columbia looks comfortable at 35. So whether Columbia can come up here at the 1,000, we'll see who takes a move. But California so far, about stroke min on the bow of Cornell, and then Columbia back about 3 seats of Cornell. Then it's over to Wisco. Wisco starting to fall back a bit. And then it's open water back to Santa Clara and Drexel. Through the 1,000, Cal is yet to break them open. Looks like they're taking a press right here. Let's see what we get for a rating check on Cal. Cal 35.5, 36. And now they're just about a full length up on Cornell. But here comes Columbia. The Lions are pushing Cornell now, who'd been trying to stay with Cal early on. And they were kind of waiting for their opportunity, and looks like they're trying to strike now and get ahead of Cornell. Open water back to Wisconsin now, behind Columbia. And the other two trailing. It looks like Drexel may have gotten ahead of Santa Clara, but running fairly even. The California Golden Bears now, just, a splash of open. No, I can't even call it open yet. They've been holding off Cornell. Cornell now taking a press, and they do not want Columbia ahead of them, so they are about 3 seats up on Columbia. Columbia made a nice move there just before the 1,000, but Cornell responded, and Cornell now cutting back into California. Just a little bit, just a little bit. Some cheers from the point, the regatta point there, as California has a 1-length lead over Cornell. Let's see what Cornell's rating is here. Cornell at 39. Columbia at 35. That's it? Wow.
California out in front here in Heat 2 or Race 2 of the Varsity Heavyweight Eights. A furious battle going on between Cornell and Columbia. Cornell now holding about a deck-length lead. At one point, Columbia had drawn up nice and level with Cornell. We had a dynamite race shaping up. It's still close, and if Columbia can get it going here in the last 25 or 30 strokes, they've got a second qualifier available. California out in front, followed by Cornell and Columbia close. Columbia moving. Columbia clearly moving up. Last 20, 25 strokes here. California out in front. Columbia moving hard on Cornell. Cornell holding on. It's right out in front now. Those of you at the finish line can see it. California, Cornell close ahead of Columbia. Columbia coming hard. This is going to be a dynamite finish here. California out in front. Columbia, I believe, I will leave it up to the officials, very close between Columbia and Cornell. Fourth place, Wisconsin, just strokes away. Wisconsin now, close finish here, fifth and sixth. Bingo. All right, we're going to have to wait for the qualification here, as Cornell and Columbia were exceptionally close. And on the screen, we've got the finish for race 1, men's varsity heavyweight eights. First place, Yale, 544.560. Second place, the Naval Academy, 547.170. Third place, Northeastern, 548.340. And fourth place, Boston University, 549.870. Fifth place, FIT, 618.390. And in sixth place, Oklahoma City, 636.170. Great row for the Naval Academy, if you don't mind me adding that point in. Great piece.
Got it where we have had the 3-minute call for the 8:50 race number 3 of the men's varsity eights, heat number 3. We've got a Eastern Sprints connection here with Penn, George Washington, Princeton, and Harvard, with a Dad Vale competitor from Temple, and looking at a Pac-12 college from Stanford. So lane 1 is GW, lane 2 University of Pennsylvania, lane 3 Princeton, lane 4 Harvard, lane 5 Stanford, and the lane closest to us will be, lane farthest from us, I'm sorry, lane 6 will be Temple. We get an opportunity to see the crews do their final practice starts in their lanes before they return back to the start, and hearing the excitement from both the coxswains and the rowers and the energy that these athletes are able to produce. It's awesome to see the crews at their best. And one of the things you can't see from the video and can't really experience is the sound that these eights make through the water when 8 guys plus the coxswain are generating huge wattage. It's also neat to hear the splits that the coxswains are getting from their speed coaches, and we'll see if they're able to generate those again as they race the full distance. This is heat number 3. 2 boats will qualify directly to the AB semifinal. The other crews will return to the rep. The top-seeded crew in this event is Princeton. Crews are being polled.
Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Temple. Attention.
Clean start. One of the things that we are looking for off a start like this are how much the boat is moving versus how much water is being thrown up by the blades. Princeton and Penn taking early lead. You can hear the whoops from the different athletes in the crews. George Washington with a strong start. 35 seconds into the race, Princeton has a 2-foot lead on Harvard, who have a 1-seat lead on Penn with George Washington and Stanford level. Temple just 1 seat behind. Princeton still at 38.5. Traditional rivals Harvard at 40. Over to you.
If you're watching the video, by a couple seats over the Tigers. Then the Cardinal, I think, would be in third, a couple seats up on Penn. Then probably over to the far side, that's going to be Temple. Maybe a slight advantage over George Washington. Temple would have a slight advantage. So through the 500, the Tigers do not want to let the Crimson go, but they are 2 seats down on Harvard. Harvard had a nice start. And let's get some ratings here. The Tigers are working at about 37.5. But a controlled 37.5. They'll make it 38. They are 3 seats down on Harvard, but Stanford making a really nice stab at it over in lane, 2. Thank you, Bob. They're coming up on the Tigers a bit, so they had a little bit of a lethargic start in the first 500, but Stanford throwing out some nice strokes now to challenge Princeton for that second spot. Pennsylvania is gamely in this also. They're still in contact with Stanford and Princeton, although only overlapping with Stanford. And then it trails back to Drexel and to Temple. George Washington. The Tigers making a big push now to try and get even with Harvard, and it looks like they might just do that. There's still strokeman Princeton on the Harvard Cox. But it is, I heard a rebel yell, and the Tigers, they just took a push. They have some juice, and they're using it right here. So they are taking a stroke on Harvard at the moment. I don't know how long they'll sustain that, but Princeton now up 4 seats over Harvard. They just blew the top off it. Stanford still running in third. Pennsylvania tightening up on Stanford. Penn only a half a length down on Stanford at the moment. Then it's open water back to GW and even farther back to Temple. Wow, the Tigers, it was called turbo button they had on the dashboard there as they cranked it and just let Harvard slip back. So the stroke of the Princeton crew now is on the bow of the Harvard shell. And then Pennsylvania's starting to make a big push and to try and challenge Stanford for third. This is a good feisty Penn crew under the direction now of Jeff Bond, trying to bring this program some good results at the IRA, and they're challenging Stanford now. So about 500, we're about 600 meters to go. The Tigers maintain the Princeton Coxon on the bow of the Harvard 8. Stanford's still trying to crank it up a little bit and cut into Harvard. I think they sense that Harvard might be flagging just a little bit, and Penn pouring it on as well. 500 to go. The Tigers in control. This is their, I guess, not quite their home course, but pretty close to home. Harvard's taking the rating up, and they're probably 39 or 40. Let's see. No, they haven't got that high yet, so just 37 still for Harvard. Now 39. The Tigers are ahead. And over.
And in the last 500 now, Princeton nearly 1 length up on Harvard. Harvard receiving a little bit of a challenge over there. Stanford came up, got their bow man Foul ball far up as the 4th seat. Now it looks like Harvard's pushed back a little bit. But Princeton in control. In the first 1,000, of course, you saw that Harvard got off to a great start, led initially, but great control by the Princeton crew. They haven't taken the weight up. It looks like it'll be Harvard as well as Princeton. Princeton out in front. Neither crew is really sprinting that hard. Harvard up a little higher than Princeton. Princeton just keeping it solid at base pace, coming across the line here. It will be Princeton. It will be Harvard. It will be Stanford in that order for the top 3 spots. Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, Pennsylvania in 4th. So kind of a parade there in the last 500 on that one, as opposed to that dynamite finish in race 2 between Columbia and Cornell. And we caught the 6th place finish there of the Temple crew, worthy of mention, and the Temple is back to the IRA. A nice compliment to Gavin White and his crew for a very nice year for those Temple Owls. We have the results now for the second race of the day, the men's varsity heavyweight race number 2, heat 2. First place, California, 543.800. Second place was Columbia, 545.710. Third place, Cornell, 545.820. And fourth place, Wisconsin, 602.120. Fifth place, Drexel, 608.120. And in sixth place, Santa Clara, 608.930.
Back at the start for the 9 a.m. race, the 4th heat of the men's varsity 8s. I'll give you the race lineup to give you an idea. Starting from lane 1, Oregon State, lane 2, Syracuse, lane 3, defending national champions, the University of Washington, lane 4, Brown, lane 5, Dartmouth, and lane 6 is Hobart. Washington took a hard-earned silver medal at the Pac-12 championships. Brown were the bronze medalists at the Eastern Sprints. And if I remember correctly, these two crews have raced each other already on the West Coast. And we'll get a chance to have the Huskies versus the Bears.
Brown, warning, late to start. Hobart, warning, late to start.
We're getting a little bit more precipitation right now. Hobart was just warned for being late to the start. And we've got probably about another minute as the crews are being aligned. You see the coxswains putting their hands up in the air, tapping along, crews are sculling. The anticipation for this event is pretty great, as most of these crews will all have finished exams. They've been in a training period. Some of the West Coast crews have come out and been doing some East Coast training to get used to the time change, and everyone at this point is ready to test their speed. And in about another minute or so, we're going to see whether or not those preparations have come to fruition. The crews are being polled. We have a start. See some crews taking the strokes incredibly aggressively and horizontally. Some people lifting pretty early. Some people is the University of Washington. Washington at 44. Syracuse at 42. Looks like Washington has a 3-seat lead with Brown and Dartmouth level. Oregon State and Syracuse are level. Dartmouth beginning to take 1 seat on Brown, but Washington is laying it down early. 1 minute into the race, and they have nearly a length lead on Brown. Over to you, Bob and Fred.
Hobart actually is being bested by Syracuse right now by about 2 seats, and Oregon State would be running in 5th, 6th. It's hard to call between Hobart and Oregon State. But Washington now is taking control of this race, has almost a length on Dartmouth and Brown, but a feisty, doughty Dartmouth crew leading Brown here by a couple of seats. That's a surprise. I know they've been working in Hanover to shake up the lineup a little bit and get a little bit more energy into that stroke seat, so that seems to be paying off. Brown here at 37, and Dartmouth, let's see if Dartmouth can sustain this margin, 36.5. It's all about base speed when you get to the middle of the course, and Dartmouth is still, I'd say Brown is getting ahead of Dartmouth by a seat now. So Washington, your clear leader, and they look typically athletic and strong. They're a length up on Brown, and Brown has got 3 seats on Dartmouth now. Then it's open water back to Syracuse. Syracuse is half a length up on Oregon State, and Oregon State now a good open water back to Hobart. Halfway through the race, it's Brown coming up on the Huskies a little bit. Their bow is trying to achieve the same margin here as the coxswain on the Washington crew, but now Washington's taking a 10, so you can see the power. Whew, here comes Washington. They're taking a 10, and their rating went to 37, so Washington now fending off Dartmouth and Brown, but Brown is clearly in second, 2/3 of a length up on Dartmouth. Dartmouth holding it together, still rowing pretty comfortably at 36.5. They're open water up on the Orangemen, Hobart, and Oregon State. 7:50 to go. It's all Huskies here. The Washington Huskies at 38, I believe, but a comfortable 38. No, let's make that 35.5. I think I misread my watch there, but they've got a quarter length open on Brown now. Brown has a full length up on the Dartmouth squad, and Dartmouth has open water still on Syracuse and Hobart with Oregon State with Hobart trailing. The Huskies making it look easy. With 500 meters to go, it's a length. It's open water, really, for Washington. A quarter open over Brown, and then Brown a full length up on Dartmouth. So, over to the tower.
And in race 4, in the last 500 meters, University of Washington well clear of the field. Brown has made a push, though, and just in the last few strokes has made it maybe a length, maybe a little less. Brown has pushed well ahead of Dartmouth, who was closer to there for the first 1,000 meters. So as we look at this finish line, 20-25 strokes out, it's Washington clear of the field, Brown clear of the field, with Syracuse making a little run at Dartmouth over there for that third place. This again is two crews to advance to the AB semifinals. All the others will be back to row this afternoon. Nice finish situation for the leaders, both the Washington crew, who's now got maybe half a length of open water on Brown. Now they're kicking it up a little bit for the fans here at the finish line. Washington well out in front, Brown well clear of third place. Last few strokes. Washington. Now, and Dartmouth's come back up to make it a little interesting, but 3/4 of a length to Brown right now, and Dartmouth right now. Syracuse over there in fourth place. Now, and Oregon State 1 length back in fifth. Hobart yet to be in the picture, but coming in. Just kind of breezing it home here. And Hobart. Now. So the seeds have held. Number 1 seed in each heat winning. As we drop into those second qualifiers, a couple surprises in the early going here this morning, led by that Naval Academy crew in the first race, who moved right into that AB semifinal. And we can put up now Heat 3, Race 3, the official, unofficial results. First place, Princeton, 547.660. Second place, Harvard, 549.940. Third place, Stanford, 551.660. Fourth place, Pennsylvania, 553.340. Fifth place, George Washington, 607.980. And in sixth place, Temple, 626.430. That was Race 3, Heat 3, Varsity Heavyweight Heats.
We're here for the 9-10 race. Varsity lightweight eights. This is a change to the regatta schedule where in past years the varsity lights would race for the 1922 trophy by rowing a heat in the morning and then coming back in the afternoon for the final. This year they've separated the racing so that the lights will race their heats today. It's 3 boats to the grand final in a 4-boat race. Lane 2 will be Penn, Lane 3 Yale, Lane 4 Cornell, and Lane 5 Mercyhurst. What's kind of interesting is that these 3 crews between Yale, Penn, and Cornell raced each other in the heat of the Eastern Sprints. In that race taking place in Worcester, Massachusetts. The finish order then was Yale, Cornell, and Penn, and Yale went on to win the Eastern Sprints for the first time since 2002, with Cornell taking 4th and Penn 5th. Mercyhurst is the unknown in this event, given that they've qualified from their regional regatta. It's pretty amazing to see these lightweight athletes who are only 155 pounds average as a crew, and seeing some of the great speed that they can generate early on. There's a lot of dig-out power that can be generated. Some interesting connections between the coaches here. Colin Farrell is the head coach of Penn lightweight rowing. He was Andy Card's assistant at Yale, and Colin also was a Cornell rower and national team member, and so the connections between the 3 schools are pretty deep. The rain's starting to fall pretty hard at this point. We're probably catching the early edge of that storm system.
Pennsylvania,
Winds are still low, but you can see that there is some wind coming straight down the course. Courses crews have been aligned, and there is a start. The precision of lightweight rowing is really on display here. You can see that the full action off the start is pretty incredible. Looks like Penn and Yale have had good starts, but really you can throw a blanket across all three of the leading crews between lanes 2, 3, and 4. Yale has 3 feet. Penn and Cornell are level. Mercyhurst 7 seats behind. Penn at 42. Yale at 40. Cornell at 37. 1 minute in.
The winner of the Eastern Sprints by a convincing show are leading this pack. And I'll give you a rate check here. They look pretty tight, and by that I'm paying them a compliment. 36 and a half. I really like the way they lean on the oar, really horizontal drive. They've got almost a length now up on Cornell. Coxon on bow, and Pennsylvania going right with Cornell here. So Pennsylvania having a better season and really trying to show something here. They've got a bucket in the middle of their boat. They're turning over pretty high here. Let's see what they're 38 and a half. So I don't know how sustainable that might be, but maybe they're going to shift out here. Yale has taken a stride, I think, and they're probably down to 36 and a half, 37. But they have really nice acceleration in that Yale crew. Obviously you're trying to plant the blade at full reach, get the weight on the handle as quickly as possible, and then really open up as you drive the legs down and swing open. And they've got a really nice uniform rhythm and acceleration. Good power curve in that boat. So Cornell making a push here now in the second 500 to cut back into Yale's lead. Their bow is on the stroke. And Pennsylvania about half a length down on Cornell. And then it's back to Mercyhurst open water. Yale doing their best to fend off the Big Red. Big Red looking for a little secret sauce up in Ithaca, trying to get back into their form from last season, where they were the top dog, if you will. And they're coming back on Yale. So they're making a nice press here. And looks smooth. Cornell boat looks smooth. 37 and a half. And they're churning away. They're making Yale really work for it. Pennsylvania is not going away either. Pennsylvania half a length to 2/3 down on Cornell. Coming up on 7:50 to go. Yale just looks like they're taking a move here to hold Cornell off. And Yale at 35 and a half, 36 now, lengthened out a bit. Just seem to have a touch more boat speed at the base. Cornell threw something at them there in the middle, 36 and a half for Cornell, but are having trouble really getting more than a seat or two. Pennsylvania looks like they're going to wind it up here with 500 to go. We're about 600 to go here for the leaders. And I'll give Penn a lot of credit here. This is a good plucky Penn crew. And they're turning over a little higher. Oh, they're at 39.40. So they're really going for it. With 500 meters, 250 to go. 500 meters to go. 1,500 here into the race. It's Yale still maintaining that one length, or not quite a length lead. Cornell has got their bow into the Yale crew, into the 7 seat. So we're going to probably have to wind it up here with Pennsylvania making a really nice move on Cornell. Cornell better watch it, or the Quakers are going to leap them here. Over to the tower.
last 500. Yale out in front. Great race for that second slot between Cornell and Penn. Penn has come up to challenge a bit there. All three of these crews will advance directly to the final on Sunday. Mercyhurst trailing the field will row in the petite final, it appears. Now we've still got 40 strokes or so to go. Yale has led the entire way. Great race between Cornell and Penn in the last 30 strokes or so to go here. We'll see if anybody wants to get up and sort of sprint it out a bit, in that they will not have to race this afternoon nor tomorrow. But we'll see. Yale out in front. Looks like Penn's going to want to make it a little bit interesting here in the last few strokes. Yale in front. Looks like Penn and Cornell very close. We'll leave that up to referees. All three of these crews, of course, will row in the final on Sunday. Looks like Penn, maybe, yes. Yale, Penn, and Cornell. 1, 2, 3. Mercyhurst trailing, but not that far back. Good job for these young lightweight rowers from Mercyhurst, who I think this might be their first time at the IRA. And Mercyhurst now. And while we're awaiting the start of the next race, we can now give you the unofficial results for the fourth race of the morning. The men's varsity 8, heat 4. First place, the University of Washington, 5:45.500. Second place, Brown, 5:52.040. Dartmouth, 5:54.800. Fourth place, Syracuse, 6:00.290. And in fifth place, Oregon State, 6:03.710. And in sixth place, Hobart, 6:27.450. So Washington and Brown will move directly to the AB semis, while Dartmouth, Syracuse, Oregon State, and Hobart will race again this afternoon in the reps.
Minutes.
We're back at the start for race number 6, the men's varsity lightweight 8s, heat number 2, to the 9:20 race. Give you a little bit of the scenario here. This is Navy, Columbia, Princeton, and Harvard. So a reprisal of the Eastern Sprints heat number 2 that they had only a couple weeks ago.
Morning, late to start.
Columbia ended up being the silver medalists, with Princeton taking the bronze in Worcester. Harvard was in the petite final in 7th, and Navy was 6th in the grand final. It's always kind of interesting, too, from the announcers area to look at the equipment choices that many of these crews are making. Being the varsity crew, these are the newest and best shells that they have in their boathouse. And Columbia, Princeton, Navy, and Harvard will be rowing Empacher shells. They're very distinctive yellow, whereas Columbia will be rowing a Hudson. That was also being rowed by Yale, Cornell, and Penn in the previous heat. Rain's slackening off a little bit, and the course looks even calmer than it was before. And for all those people that are watching on the U.S. Rowing YouTube channel, which we're excited to be able to broadcast this live to show you some of the excitement of these races. This is 3 boats to the grand final. The 4th place crew will head to the petites. The crews are being polled. And we're always...
Navy, Columbia, Princeton, Harvard, attention, go.
And we have a start. As we come out from behind the tree here, getting an opportunity to see Columbia with an early lead on Princeton. Princeton and Harvard virtually level. 45 strokes per minute from Columbia. Navy 43. Princeton 42. Harvard rowing at 40. Columbia with a 3/4 length lead on Princeton and Navy, who have a 1/4 length advantage on Harvard. Really cool to see the precision of these crews. Going to turn it over to Fred and Bob as we get to just past 1 minute into the race.
Seven or 8 seat lead, and they are leading Princeton, which has been also trying to find a rhythm and base speed this year. They've had some early season success and then didn't finish where they wanted to at the Eastern Sprints, and are trying to regroup. So Columbia, really, that's impressive. The 500 meters in, they've got almost a length on the Tigers. Tigers are starting to stretch it out over Harvard. They're 3 seats up over Harvard, and Navy is just about a half a length back of the Crimson. I'm trying to get some rating checks here to see who's working hard or harder. Columbia 36, and looks pretty uniform, pretty comfortable. The Tigers trying to cut back into that. The purpose here is really to come in top 3. The 3rd or the 4th place crew would go to the petite finals, not being a rep. So Columbia looks strong, very strong, as they lead Princeton. Princeton margin over Harvard a little bit increased, but not by much, maybe a seat. So Tigers about a 1/3 of a length up over Harvard. And let's see if Harvard's got an answer for that. Harvard at 36.5. Again, this is just to qualify for the finals, depending on whether Navy can make a charge here and challenge the 3rd place crew, Harvard. So halfway done, Columbia, which has led from the start, turning over, seem to have good fitness, good run in the boat, 35.5, just churning along like making butter. This in and out, look very uniform. Princeton taking a move here in the middle of the 3rd 500, trying to come up on the Lions, and they're coming up a couple of seats now. They've made up on Columbia, and they're at 36, so they did it with power, not rating. And Harvard's slipping back a bit now. Harvard's back almost 8 seats behind the Tigers. And Navy, I don't know if they've come up on Harvard much or not. That would be their hope, is that they could squeeze into that 3rd spot. I can hear the coxswain from Navy encouraging her crew. as it looks to be a female Cox. But it's still a length down. That's a lot to make up with 500 meters to go. So I think you're going to see the top three crews here go to the final. It's Columbia being challenged a little bit by Princeton now, and Princeton a full, not quite a full length up on Harvard. .37 for Columbia, so they've gone up.
And we're into the last 500 with the second heat of lightweight varsity racing. Columbia in control, nearly a length out in front of Princeton, who has a length on Harvard. And Navy is trying to kick back into this thing in the last 40 strokes of the race. Again, this is 3 to go directly to the final, and the fourth place crew will row in the petite finale, both those races being on Sunday. Columbia in control. Princeton, Harvard, Navy. Navy making a bit of a push out there in that far lane. Last 250. Let's see what we can do here. Columbia rowing beautifully there, in control. Hasn't taken the rate up at all. Princeton looks like they're going to hold their rate. Someone's going to need to sprint here for this last qualifying slot. Here we have it. We're in the last 20 strokes, last 15 strokes. Columbia out in front. Just barely clear or not quite clear of Princeton. Princeton rowing in second place. Navy putting on a big sprint, but Harvard has got this third place unless Navy can find it in the last 10 strokes here. Columbia right now. Princeton now. Harvard now. And Navy now. About 3/4, a little short 3/4 of a length back. Good race by all. Columbia, Princeton, Harvard will advance to the final. Navy will row against Mercyhurst in the petite finale for places 7 and 8 on Sunday. Race 5, the first heat of the men's lightweight eights, the unofficial results. In first place, Yale, 555.030. Second place, Pennsylvania, 556.000. Third place, Cornell, 557.790. And fourth place, Mercyhurst, 615.440. Yale, Pennsylvania, and Cornell advance to the final. Mercyhurst will row in the petite finale.
Minutes.
Minute call, so crews are starting to get locked on. It's George Washington, Northeastern, Cal, Wisconsin, and Oregon State. Cal is the top-seeded crew in this event. They won the Pac-12 championships a couple of weeks ago. With the Eastern schools having competed at the Eastern Sprints, what we have there is Wisconsin was 6th in the grand final. Northeastern was 7th. George Washington was 2nd in the third level final. These are the 9 through 16 athletes in everyone's program, and generally what we see is that a crew that has a fast varsity has a really fast second varsity that's been pushing them all year long. One of the things that we're also being able to hear from watching the warm-up starts here is getting a sense of how the international level of the coxing is coming to play. When you hear the Australian or British accents from some of the coxswains, you see just the attraction of U.S. collegiate rowing that's really across the world, and also the efforts that all of these colleges are making to attract international recruits. We have a start. Cal 45, Wisconsin 42, Northeastern 43. This is a really close first start here. A lot of power being generated. Cal with a 2-seat lead with George Washington and Wisconsin level. Northeastern 1 seat behind. Here in the whoops and cheers from the crews. We're getting really into the first portion of the start. Here we go, 45 seconds in. Crews starting to stride down to their base pace. Going to send it over to Bob and Fred.
Over Wisconsin. And those two are making a run at it. Then you've got George Washington tacking down third place here, impressively so here in lane 1. They've got a half a length up on Northeastern. Northeastern's got a half a length up on Oregon State. As they pass through the 500-meter mark, it's the Golden Bears trying to break free from the Badgers. They've got about 7 seats up on the Badgers, and then the Badgers in turn have about 7 seats up on George Washington. Northeastern a few seats behind GW, with Oregon State trailing. Now they're getting into their base rhythm. California putting the blade in and leaning on it. And let's get a rating check here. They look pretty comfortable. 34.5, 35. Looks like the head of the Charles here today. They've got their rating down under control, ready to go the distance. So they've got a lot of energy, a lot of reserves, and our highly touted crew. They are holding off Wisconsin. Also, maybe they just took the cue from the Badgers, Bob. What do you think? The Badgers like to row long and low. So they're also, I think, not rowing more than 35. And they've got almost a length up on George Washington now. Northeastern starting to slip back, 2/3 of a length back of GW. California doing it with power. It must be in the weight room out there in Berkeley. With halfway gone now. The Bears controlling it with rating and just pushing on the legs, They've got a length up on the Badgers. Badgers at 36 now. And a very plucky George Washington crew here. They're turning over a bit higher to stay with these leaders here. Let's see if we can get a rating on GW. Oh, 36, not much higher. Northeastern now trying to make a press to come back against GW here. But 7:50 to go. It's the Bears being pressed by Wisconsin now. Let's see if Wisconsin's been holding back something in reserve. And they're trying to attack the Bears now and go for that front position. 36 for the Badgers. They're cutting into the Bears' lead, but I think the Bears are just doing what they need to do to stay out front. I think the Bears are just taking a 5 or a 10 power burst right here. And they're still at 34. I think it's 34. Let me just check with the watch. My eye is, 34 and a half. Badgers trying to cut into it. They've made a little progress. They're bow on the stroker 7-man, but that's about it. GW really having to fight hard now to hold off Northeastern, as Northeastern's starting to wind it up here in the last 500. Oregon State trailing. We'll turn it over to the tower.
And in the last 500, the race is race 7. The event is second varsity 8s. It's California. Out in front, second place, Wisconsin. Great race for that third place. George Washington University doing a great job over there, hanging on to Wisco. Things could get interesting here in these last 40 strokes. But Cal has led wire to wire. Wisconsin's been in second place for most of this race. GW has been holding third. Northeastern in fourth, but challenging. And Oregon State following. Now we got some great water. Everything's calmed down here, and it should be a dynamite last 250. California continues to lead. Wisconsin's in second place. We'll see if GW or Northeastern can generate things. It's 2 to advance, and it's looking very good for California and Wisconsin as we come down to the finish line here. California holding about 3/4 of a length on Wisco. Actually, Wisco's jacked it up a little and picked up a little of that back. Less than 3/4 of a length. There's Cal. There's Wisconsin. George Washington. And Northeastern in fourth. And the trailing crew, the Oregon State Beavers. Coming down here, putting on a little sprint for us, Oregon State. Right now. So California and Wisconsin will go directly to the AB semis. All the others will race in the reps later this afternoon. And we now have the unofficial results for the second heat of the men's lightweight 8s. First place, Columbia, 556.030. Second place, Princeton, 558.190. Third place, Harvard, 601.340. And in fourth place, Navy, 604.130. Columbia, Princeton, and Harvard will advance to the grand final. Navy will row Mercyhurst in the petite final.
Race number 8, the men's second varsity 8s, heat number 2. It's the 9:40 race. We are 2 minutes to the start. We have Drexel, Cornell, Harvard, Yale, and Columbia. Whereas in the previous heat, we saw the Pac-12 champions from Harvard going up against traditional rivals Yale, who were 5th in the 2v8 event. Cornell was 8th in the second varsity event in Worcester. Columbia won the third level final, and Drexel qualified from the IRA Regatta. Just wanted to review the progression here. The top 2 crews from these heats will advance directly to the first and second semifinals. all of the other boats will go to the reps, and from the reps, which are really where people are going to make or break themselves in the regatta, you have to come first or second to get to the first or second semifinal. Everyone else will go to the third level final. So getting a chance to race for medals comes down very often to your performance in the rep. Crews have been polled.
Yale, Columbia, attention, go.
And we have a start. From our vantage point, we only ever get to see the first 30 or 40 strokes, so seeing differences in boat speed is generally a really closed system of both technique and power, and we have a very, very close early portion of the race between Yale, Harvard, and Cornell, who are separated by no more than one seat. Columbia trails by 4 seats, and who have a 2-seat advantage on Drexel. We're through the 250-meter mark. From our vantage point, it looks like Yale has a 2-seat advantage on Harvard, who is 1 seat on Cornell. Again, it's going to be one heck of a battle for the second and third place positions to see who will advance.
Them over Harvard. Harvard now winding it up a little bit, and they're defending Cornell against Cornell, and then on the outside Columbia. I would say Cornell is up a couple seats over the Lions, and then it's back to Drexel. So the Eli had a good start. We're 500 meters in, and they're a half a length up on Harvard. And I don't think that was, at least according to the seedings, I guess that's a surprise that Yale would have leapt out onto Harvard here. So the Eli here trying to make a statement in their early going. And they have got 5 or 6 seats now on the Crimson. Then it's Cornell, about a half a length back of Harvard. And Cornell has about a half a length up on Columbia with Drexel trailing. 7:50 in, it's the Eli really going after it. 36.5 for Yale. And Harvard caught sleeping there in the first 500. Let's see what Harvard's doing here. They're throwing strokes at it. 37.5 for Harvard. Look a little bit pressured. Look a little uneasy as Yale continues to power away. Yale now almost with a full length over Harvard. So Harvard's somewhat rattled. Cornell in third, a length back of Harvard, not quite a length. Bowman is, not quite. Bow is on Harvard's coxswain, and then it falls back with Columbia and Drexel trailing. Yale sensed an opportunity, and they are riding that energy, that momentum. 36.5 for Yale. Now it looks like they may be taking a bit of a press. And 37 for Yale. They've kicked it up 1. And they like where they are. 12:50 in. A full length for the Bulldogs. Harvard, a little scrambly trying to catch him, and Cornell is starting to press Harvard. Cornell is coming up nicely here, made up a couple seats on Harvard with 7:50 to go. So this will be interesting here as they wind it up with about 2 minutes left in the race. Harvard come back a little bit on Yale, bow on stroke maybe. And I think it's Yale's race here, unless they really cough it up, with about 1:30 to go here as they approach the last 500. Harvard's come up a little bit to put the bow on the 6th seat of Yale. let's see what Harvard's doing for rating. Harvard is up to 38.5, 39. So thus, they are really pressing Yale now. So over to the tower with Yale leading.
And in the last 500, it's Yale still out in front. Maybe a bit of a surprise for those of you who watched the Eastern Sprints, where Harvard won that second 8 event. But Harvard's making a little move back. It is 2 to advance. But so far, Yale's holding their place out there in front, with Harvard making a little challenge. Cornell on the far side there, little back of Harvard. 2 to qualify. The rest will row in the reps later this afternoon. Yale and Harvard. Now, Harvard is making a challenge here for this first place. So they've taken that rate up a little bit. They've begun to move. Yale's still holding, but it's close now. At one point, it was nearly 3/4 of a length, Yale over Harvard. Now I would say it's just a matter of a seat or two either way, and Harvard's continuing to move. Yale's decided to go ahead and take that rate up a bit too. Both crews will qualify. This is going to be close. Last few strokes. Yale closest to the shore. Harvard's come on. Harvard's just a little ahead. It's going to be close. Who wants this first? I don't think it makes a great deal of difference to Yale, right? Now Harvard and then Yale. A deck or less. Harvard, then Yale. Cornell in third, approaching the line. And Cornell now. Columbia and Drexel bringing it home for places 5 and 6. 4 and 6. 4 and 5. Columbia 4 right now. Drexel in that far lane will be 5th. 3rd place, 4th place, and 5th place finishers will row in the repechage later this afternoon. For Heat 1, men's second varsity eights. In first place, California, 554.130. In second place, Wisconsin, 556.330. In third place, George Washington, 558.950. Fourth place, Northeastern, 601.280. And in fifth place, Oregon State, 616.380. California and Wisconsin will advance directly to the AB semifinals. The other three will race in the reps later this afternoon.
I'm assuming we're getting ready for the 950 race. Race number 9, third heat of the men's second varsity eights. The race lineup: Hobart, lane 1. Lane 2, Dartmouth. Lane 3, Washington. Lane 4, Brown. And lane 5 is Penn. Washington were the silver medalists at the Pac-12 championship. Brown was 4th at the Eastern Sprints. Dartmouth and Penn both raced in the petite final. and Hobart in the far lane qualified from their regional regatta. 1 minute to the start.
Hobart, Dartmouth, Washington, Brown, Pennsylvania. Attention. Go.
We have a start. I have Brown at 48 strokes per minute. Washington at 46. Dartmouth with a very aggressive first 20 strokes here at 43. One foot advantage on Washington and Brown, who are level. Hobart and Penn on either sides of the course are also level. Fantastic start by Dartmouth. I have Dartmouth at 36, Washington at 35.
Bruno and Washington striding out now. Dartmouth would be in third, Penn in fourth, a couple seats back of Dartmouth. Hobart about a length back at the 500. Let's take a rating check here on our Huskies. Out front, 36 for the Huskies, but just a couple of seats up on Brown and Dartmouth. A very plucky Dartmouth crew here in lane 2, running even with Brown. Let's see here. Dartmouth at 34.5, 35. No, 34.5. And very comfortable. They're hanging right there with Brown. And now Brown's got a couple seats on Dartmouth, and Pennsylvania's starting to pick it up a little bit on the inside, trying to catch both Brown and Dartmouth. 7:50 gone. It's the Huskies from Seattle. Let's get another rating check here. 37. Turning over a little bit. And Brown's starting to challenge the Huskies just a little bit here. Brown has made up a seat or so, and they're trying to cut into that. Let's see, Brown has taken their rating up. Brown is 37, I think. 36.5. Just looks a little racy for 36.5. So halfway, it's the Huskies now pouring it on, and they've got almost a length. They just said to Brown, we're gonna push it out a little bit. But give credit to Dartmouth. Dartmouth is right here with Brown, and let's see. And it's 2 to qualify because we got 4 heats. So if Dartmouth can run with Brown here, that would be a really good result for them. And we're going to have to swing a little wide here for Hobart in lane 1 as they continue to trail. So middle of the third 500, it's the Huskies still being challenged. They took a move, got out a little bit more on Brown. Now Brown's come back a little bit on them. Dartmouth is trying so hard, but they're just starting to slip back now. Brown's got 2/3 of a length on Dartmouth now. Pennsylvania has not quit by any means. They're right in it there, and they will be challenging Dartmouth here for that 3rd spot. The Huskies just holding the advantage, 36.5. And really the third 500 is starting to stretch it out for all these boats. So Brown and Washington now are broken clear of Dartmouth and Penn. Pennsylvania now starting to come up on Dartmouth on the inside for that 3rd spot. So we'll get ready to hand it off to Rick Clothier in the tower. And here you go, Rick.
In the last 500, Washington out by about a length. They've held that margin throughout. Washington running a comfortable, mid-30s pace there. Brown's giving them a little bit of a push now. And for a while, Dartmouth was up in there, but it looks like Dartmouth decided to kind of check out and get ready for this afternoon. So this is 2 to advance, as were the other races in the second eights. Washington leading Brown in second. Penn now in third. Dartmouth fourth and Hobart fifth. In the last 250, we'll see if anybody's going to jack it up here for the viewers down in the finish line area, or whether they're just going to hold serve here and bring it home at a steady mid-course pace. It is spreading out. Washington clear of the field now. Washington clear of the field. Brown in second. Remains to be seen whether Penn or will want to try to spin this thing up and make a run for. Washington about a length. Then Brown. Penn and Dartmouth side by side for that third slot. At the finish now, Washington now just short of a length. Brown 3/4 of a length over Penn, closely followed by Dartmouth. So it will be Washington and Brown advancing directly to the AB semis. Penn, Dartmouth, and Hobart, who's just bringing it home right now. We'll row in the reps later this afternoon. We do have now the unofficial results for the men's second varsity eights. Heat 2, in first place, Harvard, 550.560. Second place, Yale, 551.030. That was that incredibly close finish where Harvard came back and nipped Yale there. Both those crews will advance to the AB semis. Third place, Cornell, 600.930. Fourth place, Columbia, 616.580. And in fifth place, Drexel, 628.370. That's men's second varsity eights. Harvard and Yale to the AB semis. Cornell, Columbia, and Drexel will row in the reps later today.
Minutes.
We're preparing now for the 10 o'clock race number 10. This is the fourth heat of the men's second varsity 8. This is a 4-boat heat, of whom 2 boats will go to the first and second semifinal. The remaining 2 boats will go to the rep. We're starting more in the middle of the course. This is lane 2, Syracuse. Lane 3, Princeton. Lane 4, Boston University. Lane 5, the Naval Academy. Princeton and BU were the silver and bronze medalists at the Eastern Sprints, whereas Syracuse and Navy were 10th and 11th at sprints. So we're going to see if either crew can turn the tables on the other. Stand by for the start. we're enjoying a really, really calm moment here, weather-wise.
Syracuse,
There's no precipitation.
Princeton, Boston University, Navy. Attention. Go.
We have a start. Princeton 45 and a half. Syracuse 46. BU 43. Navy 43. About 20 strokes into the race. Princeton with a 3-seat advantage on BU, who has a 1-foot advantage on Syracuse. Navy 1 seat behind Syracuse at this point. Well past 250 meters in. As the crews start to burn off some of that hot starting energy, you start to see the crews take a big deep breath and try and get into their base rhythm.
JV Heavies, about 3 seats up on BU, maybe a bit more. And then for that third spot, I'd say Navy and Syracuse are evenly matched at this moment. Maybe give an advantage to Navy by a seat or so. The Tigers are pretty highly ranked here. I think 4th ranked, and they're turning over pretty high at the moment. 35 and a half, 36. Let me just check that. Yeah, 35. And they've got the better part of a length over BU. The coxswain is trying to squeeze out the coxswain for Princeton, trying to get the bowman of the Boston University 8. And those two have pulled away from Navy. Boston University has about a full length on Navy. Navy has about 2/3 over Syracuse. 7:50 into the race. It's the Tigers pushing away. Pretty upright. Not a lot of swing into the bow, or as much as some other Tiger crews. They pretty much legs, and then they cut it off and send the hands around. And that's something maybe Greg is working on. 36 for the Tigers, but I think they're taking a press right here because I think they've gone up. They're 37, and they are getting a little bit more from Boston University. 2 to go through in this progression here, so it's Boston University and Princeton Tigers look comfortable at the moment. Halfway, Boston University says, we're going to stay right with you, the Tigers. And they've come back now. They've come back. Princeton had pulled a move there, but Boston University said they'll have none of that, and they're coming back on them. And Navy now at the 1,000 is starting to put a charge in here as well, and their bow is on the 7 seat of the Boston University boat. Syracuse trailing now, open water behind Navy. Coming up on 7:50 to go. It's steady work for the Tigers. 37 and a half for the Tigers. And they have still not quite a length. Boston University, well, let's see what's going to happen here in the last 750. This is interesting. If BU knows how to sprint. I've seen them both on the Charles and at the Eastern sprints at Worcester, and they can wind it up. We'll see. Their bow is up now almost on the 6th man of the Tiger crew. So whether they're going to try and empty the tank and get ahead of the Princeton crew, we'll see. But we'll get ready to hand it off to Rick Clothier, and the Tigers, I don't know, they've got a little bit more gearing to go. I think they've gone up again. Yeah, I think they're 39 and a half. So Princeton, they want to row 40 for the last 500. Okay, Rick, over to you.
And in the last 500 meters, The race is second varsity eights. Princeton holding serve here and pulling well out on BU. BU about 3/4 of a length ahead of Navy and Syracuse. And it'll be interesting to see whether Navy and Syracuse will, or either one or both will take a run at BU. It is two to advance to the AB semis, as has been the case with the other races in the second varsity men's category. Princeton has led wire to wire. BU has held second place since the early part of the race. So it's been a bit of a race where one coxswain watches the other, and they've tried to respond. We haven't seen any big pushes or big moves in this race. It's been pretty steady going all the way out, just trying to get that first and second qualifying slot for the AB semis tomorrow. BU, Princeton ahead, BU in second. Neither crew has taken the rate up, but we might see a little shift for the fans here at the finish line in just a moment. Princeton holding just about a length. BU is open water out now. The other two crews look like they want to just going to save it for this afternoon. Navy's the third crew, followed by Syracuse. So at the line here, Princeton now, Boston University now, some open water, about a length, back to the Naval Academy in third place now, and another length or more open water back to Syracuse in fourth place. Princeton and Boston University, here's Syracuse now. Princeton and Boston University will advance directly to the AB semi. Navy and Syracuse will row later this afternoon in the reps. And we have another set of results for men's second varsity eights. This is Heat 3. These are unofficial results. In first place, the University of Washington, 555.420. Second place, Brown, 558.200. Third place, Pennsylvania, 600.630. Fourth place, Dartmouth, 601.770. And in fifth place, Hobart, 639.960. Washington and Brown advancing directly to the AB semis. Pennsylvania, Dartmouth, and Hobart will row once again later this afternoon in the reps.
Starting a new event. This is the men's third varsity 8, heat number 1. This is race number 11, the 10-10 race. Have to give a lot of credit to the U.S. rowing referees and organizers and all of the volunteers that are helping make this regatta run so smoothly. We are running to the second on time. Give you the rundown for these crews. It's Oregon State lane 1, BU lane 2, Washington lane 3, Cornell lane 4, and Syracuse lane 5. It's 2 minutes to the start. The progression for this, there are 3 heats of the men's third varsity 8. First and second will go to the semifinal number 1 or 2, and all others will go to the repechage. In the reps, first, second, and third all go to either the first or second semifinal, whereas fourth, fifth, and sixth will go to the third level final. Typically, these crews will be the number 17 through 24th athletes within their programs, but with the varsity 4 events, some coaches may decide to put some more of their talent into the 4s. But when you think about a developmental crew, that hopefully these athletes are gearing up to contribute to the first and second varsity level later on in their careers. Please stand by for the start.
Oregon State, Boston University, Washington, Cornell, Syracuse. Attention. Go.
And they are off. The energy of the finishes, the energy of these crews really blasting away at it in the first 20 strokes is very evident. There's not a whole lot of strategy at this point. It's get your bow in front, how you have trained to do it. We have an early leader from BU in lane 2, who has a 1-seat advantage on Washington from lane 3. Lanes 1 and 4, Oregon State and Cornell are level. Syracuse trails by 1 length. Through the 250-meter mark, 50 seconds into the race.
Well, we're 350 meters into the first heat of the men's third varsity 8, and we've had a very aggressive start from Boston University. BU took about a 3-seat lead over Washington. That's down to about 2 seats at the moment as we are approaching 500 meters. Then it's about 1/3 of a length further back to Cornell. Cornell with about half a length on Oregon State and another 1/4 of a length back to Syracuse. So BU still hanging on to the lead as we cross 500. It's down to 1 seat over Washington. Cornell still right in that pack. They're about half a length behind BU and Washington, and BU taking a little bit of a move here. So BU saw Washington creeping back on them. Took a little burst, and their lead is back out to 2.5 seats. Then it's about 2/3 of a length back to Cornell now. Cornell with about 2/3 of a length on Oregon State, and another half length back to Syracuse. So BU hanging tough. Although Washington begins to creep back, and as we cross the 750-meter mark, Washington just drawing level with BU, and that has pulled both of those crews nearly a length ahead of Cornell. So it's Washington now taking a lead. Washington took the rate up a bit, it looked like. Washington now at 37.5 has pulled into a 2-seat lead over Boston University. So BU still rowing 35.5. And they still have that 1-length lead over Cornell with 2 to go through to the semifinals. Looks like Washington now with a deck. As we break the 1,000-meter plane, it's Washington with a deck over BU. BU with just about 1 length over Cornell. Another length back to Oregon State, and then another length back to Syracuse. So while the Huskies have broken through and taken the lead, they are not breaking the race open, at least not at this point. They've got about 1/4 of a length on Boston University, with about 800 meters to go. Now the Huskies pour it on. Now the Washington crew is accelerating away. It's a little over half a length at this point, and they seem to be creeping forward at 1,250 meters. BU coming under increasing pressure now from Cornell. Cornell has really come up quickly on BU. Cornell really threw that stroke rate up. They're at 39, and they are drawing level. They've made up nearly a full length on BU, and they're closing on Washington. So it's Washington now with 3/4 of a length on Cornell. Cornell with a seat and a half on BU. With 2 to qualify, this is going to be really disappointing for BU if they can't get right back into this fight with Cornell. And they're trying. As we break through the 500-meter mark, BU has stopped the Cornell march, and they've closed back up again. Cornell had gotten through Boston University, but they're now just about level with 500 meters to go. Both of them about 3/4 of a length behind Washington. Cornell responds again. With 400 meters to go, Cornell at 39 has begun to ease away again from BU. It's about 3 seats. Washington still leading. Cornell coming close. BU in third.
All right, we're coming down to the last 400 meters. Washington out in front, and just a dandy race for that second qualifier. When I say qualifier, to advance to the AB semis between Cornell and Boston University. Boston University has held that place all the way down, but Cornell made a great big push just before 500 meters to go. And both crews have pulled up a little bit into Washington, but Washington's holding on out here. Don't have to do too much, I don't think, to finish this up. BU charging, Cornell charging. BU's come well up into Washington. And it looks like BU's pulled just a little ahead of Cornell. And they had that position for a long time. Here we go down to the finish. It's going to be close. Washington now. Boston University now. Cornell now. A deck and a seat, maybe? A margin difference? Washington and Boston University will advance to that AB. We got Oregon State on the outside in fourth now, and Syracuse. Boat 5 in fifth place right now. Cornell, Oregon State, and Syracuse will row in the reps later this afternoon. Third, varsity eights. We have another set of results for the men's second varsity eights. Heat 4. These are unofficial. First place, Princeton, 553.830. Second place, Boston University, 555.600. Third place, the Naval Academy, 602.760. And in fourth place, Syracuse, 611.360. Princeton and Boston University advancing to the AB semis directly. Navy and Syracuse will row in the reps later this afternoon.
There's 2 LA's.
So we are back here up at a very calm start with no precipitation. This is race number 12, the 10:20 race. Heat number 2 of the men's third varsity 8. Navy, lane 1. Wisconsin, lane 2. Princeton, lane 3.
2 minutes.
Cal, lane 4. GW, lane 5. And Hobart, lane 6. We just got the 2-minute call from the starter, who's up in the tower. So we get a chance to observe what these guys are doing at the start in the warm-up area. These guys have usually been on the water anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes, going through their on-water drills, rowing some 10s and 20s, some of their starting strokes. And when they get into their lane, it's very interesting to see the coxswains sizing each other up and trying to not do their start next to anybody. But in the off chance that they do, you see some of the energy from the athletes looking at each other through out of the corner of their eye, seeing what kind of energy they had put into that start. We can't see the aligners from here, but the crews are put together in such a way that the bow balls are in complete alignment so that we get a fair start, and so you can see the stake boat holders either pushing out or pulling back on the different types of hulls. Crews are being pulled.
Princeton, California, George Washington, Hobart. Attention. Go.
Start. 6 boats charging to the finish line. It looks like Cal and Princeton have gotten off to the best starts. Wisconsin right in there with them. In fact, as Wisconsin starts to get into their sub-stride strokes, they're looking a little more horizontal and long, and it is Wisconsin with a narrow lead over Cal and Princeton, who are level. Navy and George Washington in lanes 1 and 5 through the 250-meter mark in 44 seconds.
And a nice start from Wisconsin has them just barely ahead of Princeton. About 350 meters into the third varsity heat. It's California just currently in fourth. A couple of seats further back to Navy, and then a length back to Hobart. So at 500 meters, it's Princeton drawing level with Wisconsin. California is still lurking about 4 seats behind those two, as Princeton and Wisconsin now level. With 2 to qualify, we've got a long way to go here. And we've got 3 boats right now within about a third of a length. So it's Wisconsin and Princeton still just about level. They're trading seats back and forth, and that's put them about a half a length now ahead of California, both of those crews. California now with 3/4 of a length on George Washington and Navy, with Hobart trailing. So we're 800 meters in, and those two leaders are still locked together. Wisconsin and Princeton, half a length ahead of California, but now Princeton puts its nose in front. Princeton starting to pull away. They've got 2 seats, 2.5 on Wisconsin, and they are really putting on an impressive display here for the last 20 strokes. They've moved from dead even to about a third of a length lead over Wisconsin. Wisconsin with about 2/3 of a length lead over California as we cross the 1,000-meter mark. So it's Princeton rowing very solidly now. They're a little high. They're at 38.5 as they made that move. But it has carried them a third of a length ahead of Wisconsin. Wisconsin has stopped the damage, so they're not losing any more ground. They're at 37. But what has happened is that has pulled them a little further away from California. It's now Princeton by 1/3 of a length over Wisconsin. Wisconsin by 1 length over California. 2/3 of a length further back, George Washington. Hobart trailing. Navy just about a length behind George Washington. So it's Princeton creeping slowly away. That lead is now nearly 2/3 of a length over Wisconsin. So Princeton moving out, but California now making a bid to take second place. They were just about a length behind Wisconsin. They've closed that to within 2/3 of a length. 600 meters to go. California now rowing 37.5, 38. Wisconsin a beat lower. Crossing 500 meters is 3/4 of a length for Princeton over Wisconsin. Wisconsin, 2/3 of a length, maybe a touch more now, over California. Then another length back to George Washington. Navy and Hobart trailing. So that California bid to wrest second place away from Wisconsin worked for a while, but it looks like Wisconsin has righted the ship, and they're about a length ahead of California.
And in the last 500, we've got Princeton out in front. Wisconsin's been holding that second place slot. Cal's trying to push a little bit, but Wisconsin pushed them back twice. So far, it's Princeton holding at least 3/4 of a length. Wisconsin looks like they might want to bring that rate up a little bit and hold that California Bear crew back. Princeton in the lead, Wisconsin in second. It doesn't look like California's going to try to go, but let's see if they spin it up here this last little bit. 250, inside 250. Princeton out in front. Little overlap back to Wisconsin, which is Benedict. Here goes Wisco. They're spinning it up now. They want to make this thing interesting. It's going to be a little less than a length. And Cal is looking for this afternoon already. Princeton going to take just a little spin up at the line here. Last few strokes. Princeton now. Wisconsin now. Open water back to Cal, with GW coming up to make it a little interesting. California and George Washington. Navy trailing here. And at the line now. So we'll go directly to the AB semis. We got Hobart on the course, but while we have a moment, we'll tell you that it will be Princeton and Wisconsin advancing directly to the AB semis. The other crews, of course, will row in the reps later this afternoon. Here's Hobart just kind of bringing it home. Low rate, not a lot of effort, getting ready for this afternoon already. And at the finish line now. Princeton and Wisconsin advancing directly to the AB semis. Cornell, California, George Washington, Navy, and Hobart will row in the reps this afternoon. And here are the unofficial results for the first heat of the third varsity eights. First place, Washington, 553.970. Second place, Boston University, 555.5790. 555.790. Third place, Cornell, 556.760. Fourth place, Oregon State, 609.390. And fifth place, Syracuse, 615.040. Washington and BU directly to the AB semis. Cornell, Oregon State, and Syracuse in the reps later today.
Race number 13, the 10:30 event, before we have a 20-minute break to make an adjustment to the starting platforms. This is the third heat of the men's third varsities. We just had the 2-minute call. This is an all East Coast affair. Lane 1, Pennsylvania. Lane 2, Yale. Lane 3, Harvard. Lane 4, Brown. Lane 5, Dartmouth. And Lane 6, Drexel. So 5 of the 8 Ivy League schools, and then the Drexel Dragons in Lane 6. Conditions are very calm water-wise from the start. Very little action on the water, but you can feel a breath of headwinds. So I'd imagine that race times are not blazing fast, but certainly the conditions are very fair. So when you think of the transition from freshman and novice 8 rowing to third varsities, you see more and more developmental athletes that used to have a freshman experience that are now racing in the third varsity, and certainly those talented first-year rowers that have been recruited or who are coming in with great experience are getting slotted directly into the varsities and second varsities. So it's been a little bit of a shift for men's rowing. We're polling the crews.
Harvard, Brown, Dartmouth, Drexel. Attention. Go.
And the crews are unleashed. Awesome to hear the coxswains exhorting their crews to bigger efforts, giving them the stroke ratings. You can see the coxswains looking off to their left and the right, giving their crews an idea about where they are already within the race, to see how their big starting energy, what has that gotten them so far. Harvard is your early leader with Brown 1 seat back. Yale 2 seats back on the leader. Dartmouth and Penn level. Over to Bob and Fred.
So 300 meters in, it's Harvard with a deck length lead right now off the line. It's Brown in second place with about half a length over Yale. Yale has about a deck on Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania with just a couple of seats right now on Dartmouth. And then about a length from Dartmouth back to Drexel. So Harvard at 500 meters, quarter of a length over Brown. It's Dartmouth pushing up, trying to take third place away from Yale, and it looks like they're just about level. The coxswain is on the bow ball of Dartmouth and Yale. Then it's 3/4 of a length back to Pennsylvania and a length back to Drexel. Harvard maintaining a quarter of a length lead. Looks like Brown throwing some strokes in there, trying to overtake them. They are moving slightly. So Brown's up at 37.5. But Harvard has responded. They're still understroking. They're at 35.5. And they took a pretty nice response there. They've moved out now to a half a length over Brown. Brown coxswain still on the bow ball of both Dartmouth and Yale. Pennsylvania is still lurking over in lane 1, 2/3 of a length behind Yale. Harvard continues to expand its lead. The Crimson lead is now 2/3 of a length over Brown. On the far side, it looks like Dartmouth trying to push up into the Brown position. It's Dartmouth coming up on Brown. The coxswain was on the bow ball. The coxswain is now on the 2 seat of the Dartmouth boat. So as we cross the 1,000, the Harvard coxswain is on the bow ball of Brown. Brown, about 2/3 of a length ahead of Dartmouth. Dartmouth just barely a seat or two ahead of Yale. Pennsylvania still in contact with Yale, about 3/4 of a length back. The Harvard boat rowing with a real purpose here. This Harvard boat now moving away. It's about 3 feet from being a full length for Harvard. Brown has reestablished itself safely in second place, at least for the moment. They've now got nearly a full length over Dartmouth. Dartmouth with half a length over Yale. So with 7:50 to go, Brown has taken its rate up. They've been rowing 39 now for about 15 strokes. So that did stop the Dartmouth move, but it has not stopped the Harvard move away. It looks like Harvard, 3/4 of a length now. So Brown is making an impression on that. Harvard still at 36, but Brown has gone up to 39 and a half with 600 meters to go. It's Brown at 39 and a half, closing slightly on the Harvard boat. It's 3/4 of a length now. That has pulled Brown away to open water ahead of Yale and Dartmouth. Pennsylvania still in contact with Yale. But the first and second place boats, Harvard and Brown, pulling away. It's about a half a length of open water now behind Brown. Harvard, once again, easing away. 350 meters to go. They again have nearly a length over Bruno.
And then inside the last 500 meters, we got Harvard leading by just about open water. Brown has been in second place all the way through, and it looks like Yale maybe wants to take a run at that second qualifying spot on the outside. Dartmouth's been up in there, but Yale is coming on strong in that very distinctive blue and white boat they're rowing in this event. Harvard out in front, Brown second, Yale making a charge, and maybe we'll have a reaction from one of the other crews, but so far it is Harvard by open water. Last few strokes. Brown in second. Yes, Yale's just held off now. They're just bringing it home. So these two crews, Harvard and Brown, will advance directly to the AB semis. Dartmouth has come up now, it looks like, and taken that second place. Harvard over, Brown over. It is Dartmouth in third. Couple links of open water back here now. Yale almost a full length back of Dartmouth. It is a full length now. And Penn over on the far side. So we'll see Harvard and Brown in the AB semis directly. Dartmouth, Yale, and Penn will row for another slot in that AB semis later this afternoon in the reps. And Drexel coming in here to finish up their heat also. Drexel over the line now. We have results now for Heat 2, men's third varsity eights. In first place, Princeton, 552.000. In second place, Wisconsin, 554.980. In third place, California, 559.710. Fourth place, George Washington, 601.310. In fifth place, the Naval Academy, 614.320. And in sixth place, Hobart, 639.140. Princeton and Wisconsin advancing directly to the AB semis. California, George Washington, Navy, and Hobart rowing again this afternoon in the reps.
Men's Varsity 4, Heat 1. Columbia, Lane 1. Loyola, Lane 2. Boston University, Lane 3. Brown, Lane 4. Wisconsin, Lane 5. Milwaukee, Lane 6. Marietta, Lane 7. You may enter the course. 10 minutes. Columbia, Lane 1. Loyola, Lane 2. Milwaukee, Lane 6. Marietta, Lane 7. Boston University, Lane 3. Brown, Lane 4. Eight minutes. Wisconsin, Lane 5. 5 minutes.
Really? Why don't you guys like this? He's
3 minutes.
Okay, after a short break, back at the 2016 IRA Championships, we've got the men's varsity fours, heat number 1, the 10:50 a.m. race. Looks like the weather's still holding off for us a little bit here. We checked it. We had some southeast winds with a 2 to 3 mile per hour with gusts all the way up to 5 miles an hour. So take that for what it is. We're getting ready for Coxed 4 racing,
2 minutes.
which with 2 minutes to the start, I'll give you the race lineup. We've got Columbia, lane 1. Loyola, Maryland, lane 2. BU, lane 3. Brown, lane 4. Wisconsin, lane 5. The Milwaukee School of Engineering in lane 6. And Marietta College of Ohio in lane 7. So now that we're into the fours event, we start to see that there is a mixture of crews that have eights racing in the regatta, but also the top 4 athletes from some of the smaller colleges that have qualified from around the country. So it's a neat chance for those athletes to match up against the presumably better funded, better supported programs, and to see what kind of speed they can generate. Cox 4 races will typically take about 45 seconds to a minute longer than the 8s racing. So these guys have to be a little more prepared to grind it out over the entire distance. And with a bow-loaded coxswain, very often they have a more challenging time seeing where they are within the race. So there's a little more communication that's occurring between the rowers and the coxswains. So typically we'll see the bow seat telling the coxswain where they are within the race. Please stand by for the start as we get the crews aligned. At this point, it's a pretty anxious moment for the athletes. They're not sure whether or not to move up and down the slide, keep moving. Some people like to sit still. Other people are tapping the side of the boat to try and fire up their teammates, maybe giving a last word of encouragement, whereas other athletes are just trying to get their last big deep breath in before they're ready to max out. Should be getting the cruise pulled very shortly here. This is the most heavily subscribed event in the regatta, with 28 crews entered.
Columbia, Loyola,
Crews are being pulled.
Brown, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Marietta. Attention, go.
And we have a start. Hugely aggressive stroke rating coming from the middle of the course from both BU, Brown, and Wisconsin. And a very good start from lane 7, Marietta, who have stuck their nose into the fight. And as we are getting about to the 40-second mark in, lanes 1 and lane 5, Columbia and Wisconsin, are level, but you cannot separate any of these crews from one another. 7 boats across, really exciting racing.
So 300 meters into this varsity 4, we've got a pretty tightly bunched field. Wisconsin, the early leader, just barely ahead of Columbia. But from 1st to 7th, we've got under a length. So Wisconsin about 2 seats right now over Columbia, and on the far side, Marietta College. So Wisconsin coming to 500 meters, now under pressure from Columbia. Columbia drawing just about level. It's Wisconsin by a couple of feet over Columbia. Brown coming with Columbia. Brown now level with Marietta and about a deck behind Columbia and Wisconsin. Then it's another half a length back. I'm sorry, that's BU. That's tied for 3rd place with Marietta. Then it's a half a length back to Brown. Then another half a length back to Milwaukee School of Engineering and Loyola. But Wisconsin has put on a burst. Going into this second 500, Wisconsin has put on a burst and has moved out to about a half a length lead over Brown. Brown with a seat or 2 over Columbia, who in turn has about a seat or 2 over Marietta. Once again, I've misidentified. That's Boston University in second, half a length behind Wisconsin. I apologize there. It's a half a length behind BU to Brown. Then it's a length back to Milwaukee, and another couple of seats back to Loyola. So that early burst in that second 500 has carried Wisconsin to that half-length lead over BU. And that's been maintaining now for the last 100 meters or so. It's Columbia in 3rd. They're about a quarter, just about a deck maybe, behind Boston University. Then over on the far side, it's Marietta College, and then Brown in the center of the field, level for 4th. So, crossing the 1,000, it's Wisconsin still, now maybe a tiny bit further ahead of BU. It's about 2/3 of a length. Columbia still pressuring Boston University, as is Brown, as is Marietta. So the first four crews, Wisconsin, BU, Columbia, Marietta, and Brown, within about a length and maybe a couple of feet of open. So with one to qualify and about 800 meters to go, it's still Wisconsin holding on. 3/4 of a length ahead of BU. It's Columbia still in third, 3/4 of a length behind BU. It looks like the leaders are starting to nudge away from the field now. It's Wisconsin, 3/4 of a length over BU. And BU now moving out to nearly a length over Columbia and Marietta, with Brown a couple of seats further back. So Wisconsin with 600 meters to go, just about a length now over Boston University. Boston University, for the first time, has shown a little bit of open water on the rest of the field. So with one to qualify, this last 500 meter race, this last 500 meters of the race is going to look like a one-on-one with Boston University trying to chase down Wisconsin. At 500, that's still about 3/4 of a length, and then open water behind BU.
And we're in the last 500 with Wisconsin leading, followed by BU, and BU looks like they want to race for this thing. They made a move there at about 500 meters to go, pushed up into overlap where Wisconsin had held most of a length. These bow-riding Cox boats, where the coxswain is up under the bow deck, it's difficult to see what's behind you, of course. Even off to the sides, they have to be very careful. So often the rowers are making the calls to the coxswain as far as what's going on out behind them. Still Wisconsin leading, BU in second. Still Wisconsin, BU making a charge. Who's going to take this thing and move it on up? This is a big field, so to win these heats are very important. Wisconsin, BU, spinning it up. Last 25, down here in the red buoys, right in front of the crowd. BU's pushing hard. Wisconsin's out in front, but BU's trying to make a run at him. It's Wisco. Most of the length. Here goes Wisco. Big shift. They want some open water here if they can get it. There they go. There they go. Now they're clear. Wisconsin. Little open water. Now BU. Deck length back. Deck length of open. Now Columbia will be the third crew across. Now Brown. Now Marietta. Now good job by all. Milwaukee School of Engineering there. Loyola finishing it up right now. And in these men's varsity 4 races, it is the winning crew that goes directly to the semis, and all the other crews will row in the reps. We have results now for the Heat 3. Unofficial results for the men's third varsity 8s. The winning crew, Harvard, 552.060. Second place, Brown, 555.350. Third place, Dartmouth, 603.520. Fourth place, Yale, 607.150. Fifth place, Pennsylvania, 610.940. That's an all Ivy League 5 cruise, and Drexel kept it from being a flush. Drexel, sixth place, 635.180.
Cornell.
Holy Cross, lane 3.
Temple.
Drexel, lane 4.
Holy Cross.
Marist, lane 5.
Drexel.
Fairfield, lane 6.
Marist.
And MIT, lane 7.
Fairfield. MIT. Attention. Go.
A lot of water flying around off the start here as the crews try and generate as much early speed as they can. Wind has died down to actually 0 on our readings. This is a pretty tactical and vicious race for some of these crews, given that it is one boat to qualify directly to the first and second semifinals. So if you are in a lead position early, you've got a great position. Here we go. Holy Cross from Worcester has the early lead in lane 3. MIT in lane 7, and Cornell from lane 1 are putting in some early work and pressuring Holy Cross. Temple, Drexel, and Marist are essentially level, and as we are getting through the...
So we have Holy Cross, your early leader, at about 400 meters, 350 meters into the second heat. They've got a half a length now over MIT, and then another third of a length back to Cornell. Cornell has about a half a length on Temple, Drexel, and Marist, with Fairfield about a length further back. So crossing 500 meters, it's Holy Cross, still with a half a length over MIT. Those two beginning to pull away a little bit. Cornell's now just about a length behind MIT, still with that half-length lead over Temple, Drexel, and Marist. So a good solid push here from the two leading crews has opened water on the rest of the field. It's still MIT chasing Holy Cross for that one qualifying spot, 700 meters into the race.
Holy Cross 34.5.
At 750, Holy Cross is about 34.5, beginning to ease away, it looks like. They've got now almost a length on MIT. MIT rowing 35, so both boats still well under control of themselves. And it looks like Cornell trying to hang on, maybe rowing a tiny bit higher. They're trying to hang on to MIT, although that's still a little bit of open water behind. Cornell now has about a length on Temple and Marist, and then another half length back to Drexel, and a little bit of open water back to Fairfield. And now, as we approach the 1,000, Holy Cross for the first time definitely has a full length on MIT. MIT trying to fight back. Looks like they've nudged it up a beat or two. And actually coming through the 1,000, they're making a pretty nice move. So it's gone from a full length to just about 3/4 of a length. A good solid 15 or 20 strokes there from the engineers. But it's still Holy Cross in the lead, as they have been from nearly the start. Holy Cross still at 35.5. And MIT at 34.5. Now Holy Cross has regrouped itself, and they've pulled back to nearly a length lead again over MIT. Then it's a little bit of open water back to Cornell, with the rest of the field beginning to trail. So 750 meters to go. It's MIT game lead, trying to eat into that lead from Holy Cross, and again, they're starting to do that. Again, it's down to 3/4 of a length. Will Holy Cross be able to respond this time, or will MIT manage to break through? This is about the third time they've tried to move, and so far it's the most effective, because right now that leads down to about a half a length. So it's Holy Cross, half a length over MIT at about 600 meters to go. MIT creeping ever closer as we go into 500 meters. That's about a third of a length now. Holy Cross trying to hold off MIT with one spot to advance to the semifinals. So we turn you over to the tower, a great two-boat race for one spot.
In the last 500, Holy Cross is led from wire to wire, but MIT has decided to make a point here and put in a little challenge for this one crew that will go forward to the semis from these four-width heats. So it's MIT trying to take a run at Holy Cross. Holy Cross leading all the way. The other crews are pretty spread out. We'll catch them as they get down in the last few strokes, but there's still a question as to which one of these crews will go forward directly to that semifinal. Holy Cross out in front, being challenged by MIT in the red boat. Both of these crews would possibly contain rowers out of their varsity crews, and if they don't have varsities or second varsities here. Holy Cross in the lead. MIT challenging. Cornell over on the far side, taking a little run at things, but they're pretty well back here. It is, again, one crew to advance to the semis out of these reps. In the last few strokes, it's Holy Cross holding serve here. Out in front. MIT taking a run at them, though, over here. Got a little angle problem, and MIT's definitely up in here, too. MIT's actually, I think, pulled ahead. MIT by, most of a length even. Over here on the near shore, a little hard to make that call, but it is MIT. Cornell coming up to third. Fairfield crossing the line. Marist. We got Drexel in fifth there, and I believe this is Milwaukee School of Engineering. We have results for Heat 1 of the men's varsity fours. In first place, Wisconsin, 635.540. Second place, Boston University, 639.720. Third place, Columbia, 644.850. Fourth place, Brown, 648.880. Fifth place, Marietta, 652.060. Sixth place, Milwaukee School of Engineering, 655.280. And seventh place, Loyola of Maryland, 704.020. And I apologize for missing a couple of those schools, messing their names up. We've got some schools here that we don't see very often, and we're glad they're here at the IRA.
Awesome racing happening from the second heat of the men's varsity fours. Let's hope the third heat gives us something kind of similar. This is the 11-10 race, race number 16. 7-boat race, one crew to qualify. This is Dartmouth, lane 1. Yale, lane 2. Santa Clara, lane 3. Washington College, lane 4. Cal, lane 5. Navy, lane 6. And Georgetown, lane 7. The crews are being polled.
Navy, Georgetown, attention, go.
And the crews are off the line, driving from the starting platforms. Watching fours racing is a little more interesting in some ways because the race is more tactical. You've got more time to make moves, and certainly with the longer race, the physiology of the athletes probably plays a little bit of a larger role. It's not quite as much of a sprint all the way down the course, but early on, As we come to 40 seconds in, California is your early leader. Lane 7 and lane 6, Georgetown and Navy are following closely behind. And as the crews start to spread out, we're seeing California and Dartmouth asserting their early dominance. We'll see how the crews that are in the middle of the pack choose to play this out.
So California with a half-length lead in the early stages of this third heat. And they are creeping away from the field. California now with nearly a length as we cross 500 over Georgetown. After Georgetown, it's 3/4 of a length back to Navy. Navy level with Washington College and with Dartmouth. Then it's a couple seats back to Yale. We've got California now with 1 length. Georgetown in second with 1 length over Dartmouth and Navy, who are level. Washington College a seat and a half, 2 seats behind that. Yale still in the picture, but they're about a half a length behind Washington College. But at this point, at 7:50, it's all California. California has open water on Georgetown. That's about a third of a length of open water for California on Georgetown. Georgetown now with a full length on Navy, Dartmouth, who are just ahead of Washington College. So California rowing very solidly. They're down at this relaxed 34. Very nice, strong finishes, just pushing them away from the field. So California is going to cross the 1,000-meter mark with half a length of open water over Georgetown. Georgetown with a length over Dartmouth and Navy. Those two still with about a seat and a half over Washington College, with Yale now about a third of a length behind Washington College, with Santa Clara trailing. California at 35, firmly in control. Georgetown now with open water over Dartmouth in second. Third place Dartmouth now moving away from the rest of the field. They've got nearly a length now on Navy, Yale, and Washington College. So with 7:50 to go, it's California, 3/4 of a length of open water over Georgetown. Georgetown, quarter length of open over Dartmouth. Dartmouth's gone up to 37, trying to stay in contact. But it looks like the two leaders pulling away. California in particular. California actually taking the rate up a tiny bit, 600 meters to go. They've gone to 35 and a half. Still looking very calm, very collected. Nearly 2 lengths now on Georgetown. Georgetown with a length and a half on Dartmouth. Yale half a length behind Dartmouth. So at 500 meters, it's California. Got a stranglehold on this one. Georgetown in second. Over to the tower.
And in the last 500, California, well out on the field, University of California. Second place, Georgetown. But remember now, only one of these crews will go directly to the semis. All the rest will be racing in the reps later today. California well clear of the field, and Georgetown well clear of third place. There is a kind of a battle going on there between Dartmouth and Yale for that third slot, but Cal is well out here in first place. Just striding it out, mid-course pace. Doubtful they'll even spin it up at all. Georgetown over on the near side here in second place. Cal and Georgetown finishing this up. Dartmouth, Yale. We've got Washington College in this event from Chestertown, Maryland. Beautiful city of Chestertown. Here's Cal, well out, just striding it out. Not going to worry too much about spinning it up in this one. Battle over there on the far side. Here's your second place crew, Georgetown, coming in on the near shore. There's Cal, 2 lengths open. Georgetown, open water, second place. Dartmouth will pick it off there, third place. Closely followed by Yale. Here's the Naval Academy coming across the line. And Washington College right there, about a length behind the Naval Academy. And we have Santa Clara from the West Coast here finishing up their race. So Cal will advance directly to the semis, and all the other crews will be rowing again this afternoon in the reps. And we have Heat 2, men's varsity 4, the unofficial results. In first place in that bright red shell, MIT, 636.920. Second place, Holy Cross, 640.610. Third place, Cornell, 644.300. Fourth place, Marist, 652.030. Fifth place, Temple, and I sort of hacked that one up, but Temple was in fifth, 656.720. Sixth place, Drexel, 658.410. And in seventh, Fairfield, 710.490. MIT goes directly to the semis. Holy Cross, Cornell, Marist, Temple, Drexel, and Fairfield will row in the reps later today.
Minutes.
How's that storm cell? Is it getting close? Yeah. Thank you. 2 minutes to the start of race number 17. It's the men's varsity 4, heat number 4. It's the 11:20 race. This is a 7-boat heat with 1 boat to qualify directly to the semifinal, 1 or 2. I'll give you the rundown. It's Harvard, Stanford, Washington, Oklahoma, Princeton, Pennsylvania, and Jacksonville in lane 7, furthest from us. We're starting to get a little more action from this rain cell that's kind of moving towards us from the southeast, and it looks like we're going to be getting some weather very, very shortly. But for the meantime, we are in great conditions.
Washington.
Crews are being polled.
Oklahoma City. Princeton. Pennsylvania. Jacksonville. Attention. Go.
And you can hear the attacking voices of the coxswains. Rowers throwing down some huge strokes, and actually it's interesting hearing the cheers of teammates that are in the warm-up area cheering for their teammates that are racing right now. 25 seconds into the race. Two early leaders, Princeton and Washington, throwing haymakers at one another. They are still rowing well above 40 strokes per minute. Princeton 3 seats on Washington. Harvard and Stanford in lanes 1 and 2 are in 3rd and 4th. Pennsylvania has 3/4 of a length on Jacksonville, who has half a length on Oklahoma. Pretty exciting racing for that first place position. Over to you, Bob.
We had Princeton come firing out of the blocks. We had them at 46 for a long time, and we've still got them at 41 as they approach 400 meters. And that's given them about a 2/3 length lead over Washington. Washington with a length lead over Harvard. Then it's a half a length back to Pennsylvania and Stanford. So crossing 500, Washington's beginning to eat back into that Princeton lead a little bit. Washington had also been fairly high. They're still at 39. But it's Princeton with a half a length lead over Washington. And now Princeton has stretched it out. They're rowing 37. It's now open water from Washington back to Harvard, and then a full length back to Penn and Stanford. Another length back to Jacksonville, and a half a length further back to Oklahoma City. So Washington at 750 meters, beginning to draw level with Princeton. And there they are, crossing 750 with the bows right on each other. It's a little bit of open water now. Back to Harvard. Yeah. Washington still rowing pretty high. I've still got them at 38.5. And Princeton at 37. So Washington, rowing 38.5, has now gotten about a third of a length lead over Princeton. Princeton with a little bit of open water back to Harvard, and Harvard with a little open water on the rest of the field. Coming up to midway is a half a length. Washington over Princeton. So Washington still rowing 38.5. Princeton still in second. Harvard now making a last-ditch move, trying to get back into this fight. Harvard has closed to within a length of Princeton. They had been open water behind. And it's actually Harvard now closing quickly on Princeton, but it's Washington pulling away. Washington now has 5 feet of open water over Princeton. Harvard now within 2 seats of Princeton, 800 meters left. Then it's open water back to the rest. So, 750 meters remaining. It's the Huskies from Seattle, still rowing 37.5, with about 5 feet of open water over both Princeton and Harvard, who are pretty much level at this point. With 1 to qualify, it's going to take something really extreme to reel in Washington, however. So Harvard has moved past Princeton by about a seat, but it's still Washington with about 3/4 of a length of open water. So they've been rowing high and they've been rowing hard, but the Washington crew still look pretty comfortable sitting in there. Approaching 500, they've gone down to 37. But they are still pulling away from the field. It's now 3/4 of a length of open water from Washington back to Harvard, and a half length further back to Princeton. So the Washington Huskies putting this one away, followed by Harvard and Princeton.
In the last 500, Washington just continuing to pull on out. they'd like to go directly to those semis, and with 40 or so strokes to go in the race, I'd say that's a pretty good bet. Challenged by initially Princeton, but now Harvard has come up and has gathered that second place, but they're still a long way off the pace that the Huskies there have set in first place. It's open water as we come down in the last 25 to 30 strokes. Washington just very comfortable, staying long. I doubt they'll even try to sprint it up, but we'll take a look here and see if they want to put a little show on for the crowd down here, which is a gathering crowd. Washington out in front, just keeping it under control. Here they go, spinning it up just a bit, the last few strokes. Harvard in second on the far side there. Washington, barring something unforeseen, looks pretty safe to be advancing directly to that semifinal. Washington right now. Harvard, little challenge from Princeton nearby, but it's open water. Harvard in second now. Here's Princeton, a little open water behind in third. Now Pennsylvania coming up to take fourth. Right now. Stanford crossing the line now. Jacksonville. Way to go, Jacksonville. Welcome to the IRA. And Oklahoma City in the fourth. Washington advancing directly to the semis. All the others we'll see racing again this afternoon. Here are the unofficial results for Heat 3 men's varsity fours. The winning crew, California, 635.290. Second place, Georgetown, 642.190. Third place, Dartmouth, 646.200. And in fourth place, Yale, 646.880. Fifth place, the Naval Academy, 652.430. Sixth place, Washington College, 655.790. And seventh place, Santa Clara, 707.860. California advancing directly to the semis. All the other crews will be rowing again this afternoon in the reps.
Minutes.
I'm going to wait for him to say stuff. Yep. Here we go for race number 18, starring our next event, which is the men's varsity lightweight coxed fours, heat number 1. This is a 5-boat race with Temple, Georgetown, Princeton, Penn, and Yale. Interesting to note that the Temple is not traditionally a lightweight school and is fielding 4 of their lightweight-sized athletes. And then Georgetown is their, because their varsity 8 did not qualify, these are likely their top 4 athletes.
Temple.
Either way, this is going to be very exciting with ideal conditions. Crews are being pulled.
Yale. Attention. Go.
Absolutely perfect conditions here for blade work. For these lightweights to lay down some monster strokes here and try to generate an early lead. Georgetown and Temple appear to be your early leaders. Temple in the near lane closest to the camera, rowing at 39 strokes per minute. Less than half a length separating first from fifth. This is going to be a fascinating race to watch, and as you get these great shots from the chase launch, we're going to see whose technique and physiology matches up for these qualifying spots. Over to you, Fred.
We've got a tightly packed field here of 5 crews in the lightweight 4 looking for those 3 spots, and it's Yale just barely in front of Georgetown by maybe a foot, maybe 3 feet further back to Temple, and another foot back to Princeton, then a half a length from Princeton back to Penn. And Georgetown, with a little push, has gained the advantage on Yale. Georgetown now with 1 seat over Yale in the lead. Princeton coming with Georgetown. They've drawn level and now a seat past Temple. So it's Princeton half a length behind Georgetown in 3rd place, Temple in 4th place, 2 seats behind Princeton, and then a half a length back to Penn. Georgetown maintaining its lead over Yale. They're rowing 34 and a half, as we approach 7:50. And it's Princeton moving into 2nd place by a couple of feet over Yale. A third of a length further back, Temple. Princeton, rowing 37, has moved into 2nd place, just barely over Yale. 3/4 of a length behind the leaders, Georgetown. Yale's at 35 and a half, and they're a half a length ahead of Temple. Right now, Yale in that 3rd qualifying position. Temple still hanging on to them, and Penn still half a length behind Temple. So as we approach the 1,000, Georgetown expanding its margin just inch by inch. It's Georgetown by 3/4 of a length, crossing the 1,000 over Princeton. Princeton has 2 seats over Yale. Yale has half a length over Temple, and Temple now with 1 length over Pennsylvania. Georgetown stretching it out. Georgetown understroking the field at this point and leading now nearly a length. Georgetown at 33 and a half, nearly a length ahead of Princeton. Princeton half a length on Yale. Yale half a length on Temple. So Princeton at 35, a couple of beats higher than Georgetown, but unable to cut into that lead with 750 meters to go. Princeton is, however, pulling slightly further ahead of what's turning into an ugly fight for that 3rd spot between Yale and Temple. Princeton with just about a length over Yale. Yale with less than half a length over Temple.
Stroke looking over his shoulder. Back to 37.
So Georgetown, not quite a length over Princeton. Princeton up again to 37. Princeton now approaching 500, has almost a length on Yale, and now for the first time they're beginning to march back on the Hoyas. So Princeton, 500 meters to go, 3/4 of a length behind Georgetown, and a touch of open water over Yale. Yale still under attack from Temple.
In the last 500, Georgetown in this lightweight men's Coxed 4 event out in front, Princeton holding second. 3 crews will advance from this heat directly to the final on Sunday, and those below 3, places 4 and 5, will row in the petite finale, which will be a 4-boat petite finale. 2-boat. 4-boat petite finale. Okay, we're looking at Princeton, Georgetown on the lead, Princeton in second, Yale in third. We'll see if anyone's going to try to get up there and get into this third position so that they can row in that final. Georgetown out in front still, Princeton holding second. Yale in third. Temple was giving a good effort in the first 1,000 meters. They'll be on the inside. We'll see if they can shoot up and get into this. Georgetown on the far side. Princeton. Yep. Yale. Close match here for this third slot. Let's see what can happen. Looks like we're going to run out of room, and Yale's going to take it here. There, Georgetown over, Princeton over, Yale over, Pennsylvania, and Temple. So Georgetown, Princeton, Yale, directly to the final on Sunday. We have results now for Heat 4 of the men's varsity 4s, the open 4s. First place, Washington, 625.550. Second place, Harvard, 631.260. Third place, Princeton, 635.800. Fourth place, Pennsylvania, 646.820. Fifth place, Jacksonville, 650.700. Fifth place, let me make a correction. Fifth place, Stanford, 650.700. Sixth place, Jacksonville, 656.710. And in seventh place, Oklahoma City, 7 minutes, 1.630, 701.630. And we're back to the starting line once again.
We are 2 minutes away from the start of race number 19. Men's varsity lightweight Coxed 4s, heat number 2. This will be Cornell in lane 1, Columbia lane 2, Harvard lane 3, Wisconsin lane 4, and Navy lane 5. This is 3 boats directly to the grand final. The remaining 2 boats will go to the petites. In these longer Coxed 4 races, what we are seeing is that there are more lead changes. Certainly between the 500 and 1500 meter marks, there looks like there's a lot of movement happening as crews have to deal with the impact of their output of trying to generate a lead, but then also being able to maintain their efficiency and the strategy. The crews are being pulled.
Navy. Attention. Go.
And the crews are underway. It's a fast track at this point for these lightweight athletes, many of whom would have been rowing in their second varsities for most of the year. I see an early leader coming from lane 2, Columbia, who appear to have 2 seats on Harvard. Harvard appears to have 1 seat on Navy, who in turn has 2 seats on Wisconsin, who is level with Cornell, crossing through the 250-meter mark in about 47 seconds. These guys are laying down some hot speed.
So Columbia leads the pack at 300 meters. In this lightweight 4-second heat, they've got a deck length on Harvard. Harvard has a deck on Navy, and then it's another couple of feet back to Cornell. Cornell with half a length on Wisconsin. So right now, 5 boats pretty tightly bunched, all within 3/4 of a length, as Harvard and Navy begin to creep up even with Columbia. So at 500 meters, it's Harvard and Columbia deadlocked. Navy a seat behind that, then 3/4 of a length back to Wisconsin and Cornell. Harvard pokes in front. Harvard now with about a 5-foot lead over both Columbia and Wisconsin. Those two not quite a length ahead of Cornell. Cornell by a seat or 2 over Wisconsin. So 700 meters in, the Harvard boat has about a deck now. It's still dead even between Navy and Columbia as we cross 750. With 3 to qualify, Cornell making a push here. They were nearly a length down behind Columbia and Navy. They are now within a half a length. So Harvard at 37.5 leads the field by half a length. It's on the far side, Navy attacking hard. They've pulled into second. They've pulled up within a deck of Harvard now. They've got 2 seats on Columbia. Columbia, 2 seats on Cornell. Cornell, half a length on Wisconsin. Harvard with a response. Harvard has checked the advance of Navy, and they crossed 1,000, a third of a length in front. Harvard, 38 now, taking a move as they cross 1,000. It's Columbia and Cornell closing in on Navy. From first place Harvard to 4th place Cornell, it's 3/4 of a length. Then it's another 1/4 of a length, 1/3 of a length back to Wisconsin. So still anybody's qualification here. Nobody's out of this with 3 to advance. Harvard establishing a half a length lead again, but it's Columbia now making a charge. Columbia moving up at 12:50, 7:50 to go. Columbia has again drawn level with Navy. Both of those crews 1/3 of a length behind Harvard. 35.5 for Columbia. Harvard still a little bit higher at 37. 36 for Navy. And Wisconsin begins to pull into that mix. Columbia making its charge. Columbia now within 2 seats of Harvard. It's Navy 2 seats behind Columbia. And it's Columbia drawing level as we approach 500 meters. It's Columbia level with Harvard, now barely poking their nose in front. It's Navy only a seat and a half behind, and it's only half a length further back to Wisconsin, and then another seat or 2 back to Cornell. So it's Columbia by a deck now over Harvard. Harvard by about 6 feet over Navy, and Wisconsin coming hard. With 3 to qualify, this is 4 boats within three-quarters of a length, and only half a length further back to Cornell.
And inside 500 to go, Columbia has moved up into the lead. Columbia leading. Great race developing here with Wisconsin coming up on the Naval Academy. There's 3 crews to advance directly to the final, so that third place is very important in this race. Columbia leading, Harvard in second. Harvard's not safe yet. Both Wisconsin and Navy are charging hard. I would call it Navy and then Wisconsin with about 25 to 30 strokes to go. There's plenty of water here for someone that wants to spin it up. Columbia, Harvard, Navy, Wisconsin coming strong. Last few strokes. Columbia. Navy has moved to second. Harvard holding on. Wisco coming like crazy in these last few strokes. First, second. Wisco, they got him. They picked off Harvard there. Columbia, Navy, Wisconsin. Harvard 4. And on the far side, Cornell. So this is cutthroat, 3 advance. And those 3 crews are Columbia, Navy, and Wisconsin. The other 2 will be rowing in the Petite Finale on Sunday. Heat 1, lightweight 4 unofficial results. The winning crew, Georgetown, 636.890. Second place, Princeton, 638.980. Third place, Yale, 642.180. Fourth place, Pennsylvania, 644.170. And fifth place, Temple, 651.470. Georgetown, Princeton, and Yale will all directly advance to the grand final. Pennsylvania and Temple will row in the petites.
Okay, we're getting close to the last 2 races before the lunch break, and this is an exciting one. It's the first coxless race that we'll have today. It's the men's varsity lightweight straight 4, heat number 1. This is race number 20. We have Georgetown, Princeton, Penn, and Columbia. This is a 4-boat race. 3 boats will go and advance to the grand final. What's very neat is that this mirrors the Olympic level boat class, the lightweight straight 4, which we know is under fire a little bit internationally. But what we see with lightweight straight 4s is that they can produce speed very, very similar to the best heavyweight straight 4s. This is something we don't often see in collegiate rowing, where there will be one athlete within the boat that will have a tow steering mechanism, and they'll be responsible for keeping the boat straight in their lanes. I think this is one of the races where the referees will have to be on their toes, as there can be some errant steering on occasion that can impact the progression. So we've got a very, very fair track, though, for these straight 4s to go off, and the start is imminent. One of the best parts of watching this is the communication between the crews.
Columbia. Attention. Go.
And these starts are always such an important balance between getting maximum power but also staying straight in your lane. And so usually everybody in the crew has to be responsible for getting off to a clean and fast start. I have the early leader in this as Princeton, rowing 44 strokes per minute, who have immediately jumped out to a two-seat lead on Yale and, that would be Penn and Columbia, who are level, followed very closely by Georgetown. So not much in it other than Princeton with an early lead as they cross the 250-meter mark in 43 seconds. It's going to be a big one, big challenge.
Another aggressive start from a Princeton boat. We had them north of 45 strokes a minute coming off the line, and they're still 400 meters in, over 40, and that's put them in front. 3/4 of a length over Columbia, with another seat or two back to Pennsylvania, and then Georgetown a half a length behind that. So as we approach 500 meters, it's Princeton settling down now to about 38 strokes a minute. Crossing 500, not quite a length in front of Columbia. Columbia with 3 seats on Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania with 3/4 of a length on Georgetown. Princeton at 38 still. But you wouldn't know it from watching the blade work. The blade work is exceptionally clean, exceptionally positive. They now have just about exactly a length over Columbia. Columbia with 3.5, 4 seats over Penn. Penn now with 1 length over Georgetown as they fight for the 3 spots in the grand final. So it's 7:50. It's a foot or two of open water for Princeton. Pennsylvania coming up to challenge Columbia for second place. They have drawn level with Columbia now, a few feet of open water behind Princeton. So it's now Georgetown, a little bit of open water behind Penn and Columbia as they fight to stay in this qualification race. Princeton now cruising. They've gone down to 36, and they've got about a 4 foot of open water lead over Penn, who has a seat and a half over Columbia. So breaking through the 1,000-meter mark is Princeton with a little over a length over Penn. Penn with a deck now over Columbia. Columbia with a little bit of open water over Georgetown. This Princeton boat's looking like clockwork right now. They're just spinning it over. Again, they're at 37, and we still have not seen much dirty water on either catch or release. It's Penn making a good charge at them, though. Penn's coming back a little bit. They've almost gotten to within a closed length. Penn now 3/4 of a length ahead of Columbia, and Columbia a length and a half ahead of Georgetown. 7:50 to go. It's Princeton. A little bit over a length over Penn. Penn now moving out to nearly a length over Columbia. Those three tend to be easing away from Georgetown. So the 3 qualifying positions right now would be Princeton, Penn, and Columbia. Let's see how badly anyone wants to upset that order. It's Princeton, 5 feet of open water. Pennsylvania in second, a couple of feet of open water over Columbia, with Georgetown trailing. So 500 meters to go. Still at 37. Princeton in control.
Inside 500 to go. Lightweight men's 4 without. Princeton out in front. Princeton's been leading pretty steadily here. Georgetown, I think, is the trailing crew right now, so Penn and Columbia would be the other. There's 3 to qualify, or 3 to advance directly to the final here. So that 4th position is the one we want to avoid if we can keep from it here. Princeton handily leading out there, rowing an Empacher. The other two places have begun to sort themselves out. We got about 25 to 30 strokes left or less. Princeton looks like a good bet to qualify. And I think it's Georgetown that's trailing on the far side. So then it would be Pennsylvania and Columbia in the next two slots. And we'll get a sprint and see who wants to make that second spot as opposed to the third. Three to advance directly to the final. The fourth place crew to row in the petite finals, all on Sunday morning. Princeton way out here, doing a nice job. There's Princeton. Full length or more. Lightweight 4 without. Pennsylvania looks like they'll hang. In fact, they're moving just a little bit and doing a nice job in the second qualifier. Columbia here, rowing in third. A couple 3 lengths of open water back. And on the far side, Georgetown in fourth. So Princeton, Penn, and Columbia will go to the final. Georgetown will row in the petite finals on Sunday. Heat 2, men's lightweight 4s. Unofficial results in first place. Columbia, 634.710. Second place, the Naval Academy, 637.180. Third place, Wisconsin, 638.880. Fourth place, Harvard, 639.760, and in fifth place, Cornell, 643.940. Columbia, Navy, and Wisconsin to the grand final. Harvard and Cornell to the petite finale.
The model of having people, students should just be relegated to being fans.
Right.
It's an important, it was a really important part of my collegiate experience and the people I've coached, I think. It was part of their experience.
Okay, final race of the morning. Going off at high noon, race number 21. Varsity lightweight straight 4, heat number 2. Lane 2, Harvard. Lane 3, Navy. Lane 4, Yale. Lane 5, Cornell. Talked a little bit about the communication within the crew and hearing the crews warm up and encourage each other and talk about what they're feeling, giving each other their final focal points for the entirety of the race. It's very neat to hear how that develops, where you don't hear that very often within coxed boats. With the conditions here being so still and quiet, and with an hour break, there are no other crews warming up in the warm-up area. These are the last 4 boats that are on the water aiming for the grand finals.
Harvard.
The crews are being polled.
Yale. Cornell. Attention. Go.
And the crews are off. Yale 44.5. Navy rowing really upright and very, very crisp at 46. And as the crews come off their high 20, they are starting to stride to the upper 30s, low 40s. Cornell is your early leader, followed by Harvard and Yale, who are level, with Navy 1 seat behind Yale. Hearing the athletes talk about shifting now. And we see Cornell starting to extend their lead, sending it over to Bob and Fred in the chase launch.
It's Cornell, our early leader, by nearly a length over Yale at 400 meters of the final heat of the morning. Lightweight coxless fours. Yale has about a seat and a half over Harvard. Harvard with about 3/4 of a length over Navy. So we're across 500 meters now, and a little bit of open water for Cornell over Yale. Yale moves out now to about a half a length over Harvard. Harvard with just under half a length on Navy. So the Cornell boats started out pretty high. They've lengthened out, but they're still at 37 as they creep away from Yale. Yale still in second place, but right now Harvard making a charge. Harvard has come back to within a deck of Yale, and that has put them 3/4 of a length ahead of Navy. So it's Cornell by about 5 feet of open water at 750 as Harvard draws even with Yale for second place. Navy still less than a length behind. 3 of these 4 boats to advance to the grand final. Cornell, rowing 35 and a half now, has about 5 feet of open water over Harvard. Harvard with 1 seat over Yale. And now Yale just about a length ahead of Navy. Yale fighting to hold on. They saw that Harvard boat come through, but they certainly don't want to let them go. They're digging in. That Harvard lead got to 2 seats, and it's held there for about the last 20 strokes. So Cornell crosses the 1,000-meter mark with about 4 or 5 feet of open water over Harvard. Harvard again beginning to surge. Harvard now with half a length over Yale and beginning to slightly close that gap on Cornell. It's Navy coming back on Yale. Navy now within 2/3 of a length of the Eli for that very important 3rd transfer spot over to the grand final. So Harvard now closest to within about 2 feet of open water of Cornell with about 800 meters to go. That has put them nearly a length ahead of Yale. Yale has 2 seats now on Navy. So Cornell's 36. They are leading Harvard, who's rowing 38 by 1 length. Harvard had trailed by about 10 feet of open water at the most, and they're now exactly 1 length behind Cornell with 650 meters to go. It's then open water back to what's turning into a really nice fight for that last qualifying spot. It's Yale by about a seat and a half over Navy. Yale at 37, trying to hold off a nice little push by Navy. Navy's at 38 and a half. It's 550 meters to go. So it's Cornell with 500 meters to go, 1 length ahead of Harvard, crossing 500. And it is Navy drawing level with Yale, crossing 500. Navy, rowing 38 and a half, has just poked its bow in front by the barest of margins over Yale. Yale's at 37 and a half. They are about 3 feet behind Navy. Cornell still leading, but Harvard has just shifted up. They want to win this heat if they can. They're now less than a length from Cornell, but it's Navy that has broken through. Navy has taken third place away from Yale. They now half a length ahead of Eli. Navy at 38.5. Yale nudged it up to 38 with 2:50 to go. That's a half a length for that last qualifying spot. So approaching the finish, Harvard putting pressure on Cornell. Navy, having gone through Yale, trying to hold off now a late Eli charge.
Well inside 500 to go. Cornell, Harvard, giddy up Navy's pulling through Yale. Yale's trying to make a comeback here. It's going to be close, but it's Navy for third right now. Cornell, Harvard, the Naval Academy pulls on through. Not a full length, but it's Navy now. Yale now, and it is a full length right at the line. So the three crews to advance: Cornell, Harvard, the Naval Academy. Yale will roll in the Petites on Sunday. We have the results for men's lightweight four without Heat 1. These are unofficial results, but they're pretty official. First place, Princeton, 626.400. Second place, Pennsylvania, 428.300. Third place, Columbia, 636.640. And fourth place, Georgetown, 642.040. Men's lightweight four without Heat 1, Princeton, Penn, Columbia to the grand final, Georgetown to the petite finale. Just a special announcement for those of you here, especially in the finish line area and are watching down the course, and for our loyal viewers throughout the country. Afternoon racing is to begin at 1300. That's 1 o'clock for you civilians out there. 1 o'clock, not 2, which was originally posted. 1 o'clock will begin the racing with the men's varsity 8 repechages. We do have the unofficial results for Heat 2 of the lightweight four without. First place, Princeton, 626.400. Second place, Pennsylvania, 628.300. Third place, Columbia, 636.640. And in fourth place, Georgetown, 642.040. Princeton, Pennsylvania, Columbia to the grand finale, Georgetown to the petite finale. We'll say goodbye to you for about an hour and come back up at 1300 ready to go for those afternoon repechage varsity races, and they should be dynamite. I hope you'll all be back with us. Goodbye for now.